Good morning, everybody. How's everyone doing? Good, okay. I want to thank everyone for attending our 5G Annual Client Workshop and HR Summit year of 2022. So happy to be together in person, right? Yes. I am Emily Trusk, the Marketing Coordinator for 5G Benefits and Insurance. We have over 300 people in attendance for today's event here at Lambeau Field. So welcome everybody. We really appreciate you taking the day to come spend it with us. I want to introduce our first speaker and moderator for today, Tony Gable. Tony is the founder and CEO of 5G Benefits. He started 5G to be the most innovative agency in the market and bring ideas to help Wisconsin businesses compete nationally. His Tuesdays at 2 webinar series on COVID-19 helped literally thousands of businesses. Tony is a top of the table MDRT member, which is comprised of the top 0.01% of the advisors in the world. And he even won the EBA magazine's Rising Star in Advising, an award given to the nation's top advisors. He has been the National Agent of the Year with multiple carriers, including Life Agent of the Year with Pekin Insurance. 5G Benefits has grown from no clients and no carriers to one of the top family-owned businesses and insurance firms in Wisconsin. It is my pleasure to welcome to the stage Tony Gable. Let's give a round of applause, please.
All right, let's see if this thing works. Thanks everybody for being here. Really appreciate it. It's great to be at Lambeau. Kind of the reason I've always chose Lambeau over the years is I actually started my business career with the Packers. I was a marketing intern, and my office was almost directly underneath my feet. So really the Packers, I would say, kind of taught me it's all about culture. It's all about people. It was just a great organization. They also taught me how to work. Working 70 hours a week during training camp. Making less than minimum wage was fantastic. So that really translated into how we kind of run the company and run 5G now, and it's been great. But today's training is really going to be about bringing ideas to help your business, to help your HR people. It's been a crazy job market. You guys can probably agree with that. Is finding people, attracting people, retaining people has been difficult for probably everyone in this room, and we're going to try to bring some ideas for you guys to help combat that and compete with some of those national companies that may be taking some of your employees. So let's the first thing I want to do today is also just thank our sponsors. We have a great list of sponsors for the event. You'll see on there Mersberger, Pekin Insurance, WPS, United Healthcare Employee Benefits Corporation, Network Health, Transamerica, Colonial, Unum, and Delta Dental. Let's just give a round of applause for all the sponsors for today. All right, so we have a great lineup of speakers today. I'm not going to go through each person's name, but we do have a great lineup going from wellness and compliance to HR. We also have, I don't know if you've ever heard of a guy named AJ Dillon. We also have him coming today. So he's going to be bringing some great insight this afternoon and mingling after the event as well. And then some of the 5G staff just to start the day on some updates that we have. Those are some of the photos as well of the speakers that you will see throughout the day. Just a couple housekeeping items real quick. Bathrooms outside. We also have refreshments. Water, soda, you guys, and coffee, you guys can grab that anytime. We're going to have lunch served at noon. You do have the agendas in front of you as well that you can see. We have a private viewing suite as well that you'll see. There's going to be some signs during the breaks. You'll be able to take some photos of Lambeau Field. And then you also have the content. We have a number of people tuned into the live stream today. I think we have about 100 people tuned into the live stream. And then we'll probably have about another 100 that'll watch it after the event. But we'll have a link that will provide with the video of this today, as well as any content that we're going to go over, including the presentation that you'll get from Lauren from our office. So Lauren at 5gbenefits.com. If there's anything that you guys have that you need throughout the day or after the event that you maybe piqued your interest, Lauren can touch base on that. And we have AJ Dillon handing out a number of items. And then we also have people logged on for SHRM accreditation. 5G is a SHRM recertification provider for this as well. And there's the agenda. So 5G, I mean, just real briefly on 5G, maybe I would say 99% of the people here know who we are, but I know there's been a lot of mergers. There's been a lot of acquisitions. You guys have maybe seen that in your industry as well, a lot over the last year, 2 years. So there's a lot of people that are new here that maybe don't know us as well. So we've definitely grown over the years. We've got a couple locations as well as a satellite office in Oshkosh as well. So Fond du Lac, Green Bay, and our staff is located throughout there. I also want to just throw a quick thank you to all the people that have sponsored our nonprofit that we have. It's a 501c3 called Gable Family Foundation that we hold Fish for Kids events in Green Bay and Fond du Lac. And then we also have a women's empowerment series that my sister started that has really exploded that she coordinates. So I just want to thank all the sponsors for all the support over the years on that. So into the content a little bit more. So one thing is that I wanted to announce this is, we just joined as a UBA, so 5G Benefits joined as a UBA partner firm. This does not mean we sold out, this does not mean we merged or anything like that. We own 100%. Basically what UBA is it's a collection of 200 agencies across the country that we pool together money and resources, and then we're able to compete with those larger agencies. So as of actually May 1st, we are now a UBA member. We're the only UBA member in Northeast Wisconsin, and collectively with all of our other partners, we are the 9th largest independent agency in the country. So all you're going to see from that is just additional resources. We're going to have more compliance assistance, just a lot better resources that we're going to be able to do without having to ever sell our company, which is not what I want to do. Just keep growing the company and keeping our clients and staff happy. So that's just a great thing that we wanted to announce. It just happened, and this is just some of the things that you'll get. Once again, expert compliance resources. We have a great health plan benchmarking that we're going to pull together thousands of clients that we pull into a benchmarking to help you gauge how your plan and your benefits and your compensation ranks up to other companies across the country. That's a big thing that we're going to be launching very soon. More HR resources and pooled staff. And the last one is we also have an exclusive health plan, captive health plan that we'll be doing. So my content piece, those are just some housekeeping things that I want to get through. Now let's go more to the content a little bit more. I have 2 slides that I want to go over before I translate it over to the to the other speakers of the day. I just put together what's called Tony's Top 10. So top 10 things that I want you guys to know from our standpoint that maybe changed, is new, that might help your business immediately. So we've been really talking about HSAs. How many people in the room offer a health savings account plan, high deductible health plan? If I would have asked you that question probably 5 years ago, it would have been like 25% of that. It's really gone up in popularity, but it's amazing how people don't still know the actual advantages of setting up a health savings account and some of the things that you can do differently that maybe is maybe wasn't out there 5 years ago when you first went onto it. So we actually have an invested HSA product, and what we figured out was there's strategies out there. It's called delayed reimbursement strategy, where basically you can put money into your HSA tax-free, right? That's the best thing. It goes in there tax-free. It rolls over tax-free, and then you can take the money out for qualified medical expenses tax-free. But what people don't know is that there's an invested HSA plan. So a lot of you might have your HSAs at a local bank, right? You might have it at a local bank, probably earning 0.001% on your money. We have a product where you can split it off, where you have a banking side and then you have an invested side. So you can invest that money into the stock market as aggressive or non-aggressive you want. And we already have, I think, 4,000 people into the HSA product now. So we pool together those dollars and then basically do all the allocations for the employees. So an employee with $1,000 gets the same allocations as somebody with $50,000 in their HSA. But the big thing as part of that is delayed reimbursement strategy. So you can basically put money to that HSA, let it grow completely tax-free, and don't touch it. So if you can afford to not touch it, that's a big strategy, because you can, like, for example, I had a child, my wife's here, she's walking around as well, Kara. We had a child, his name is Wesley. a year and a half ago, and he was $5,000. I did not pay that. I had the $5,000 in my HSA. I didn't pay it out of my HSA. I held on to that receipt, and I'm going to reimburse myself in 30 years. Why would I do that? Because that $5,000 is going to grow completely tax-free throughout those 30 years. I can then take my receipts and reimburse myself in 30 years. It's a tax loophole that hardly anyone knows about. It's called delayed reimbursement strategy. So it doesn't make sense if you have your HSA on just a bank or any 0.001% interest. If you're going to earn interest and have the ability to do it, that's a great product. So we have all the 5G clients can do that invested HSA. That link goes right to an enrollment form. You guys can sign up. The other tax loophole that I'll throw out today is adult dependents. If you've got adult dependents on your HSA plan and you don't claim them, they can do their full family annual max themselves and do an HSA. So you can do an HSA max for yourself. Your adult dependent can also do their full HSA max for themselves. So even though the family max is what, it's a $7,300 for 2022, it's actually jumping way up this year for 2023. I think it's $7,750 it's going to go to. So you can put in $7,300, and your adult dependent 18 or older that you don't claim can also put $7,300. I could go on all day with HSA strategies, but I think the big thing is Rick, Kyle, myself, if you're going to meet with somebody, we are experts on HSAs. We have a lot of things that you can talk through. We have a detailed guidebook that we're going to have in the resources. It's the best HSA guidebook you're possibly going to look at. So that's going to be included in that content as well. The other thing we're seeing that's hot out there is HR technology. So if you're not looking at HR technology, especially as clients are continuing to grow, how to coordinate enrollments, your payroll integration, help educate employees. We're seeing a lot more on the HR technology side of things than we've ever seen, especially with COVID. It's just more difficult to get people together. It's harder for you to educate your employees. So if you haven't looked at HR technology, we actually have Eric Silverman that's going to talk a little bit on that. The other thing that we're seeing is mental health. So mental health has been an issue the last couple of years with just a spike in that, and providing employees resources. So I know some clients have maybe an EAP program that's local. There's a different option. It's not exactly the same, but you can include it with an employer-paid group long-term disability plan and have that included under your group long-term disability plan. So if you don't have that included, definitely look at that. You can get those included for 3 to 5 visits per person. If you're not doing that, that's definitely take a peek at that. The other thing that we're seeing is 5G health cards for direct contracting. So that's been extremely popular lately, is direct contracting directly with hospital systems. So whether it's, if you're on the self-funded side, if you are even on the fully insured or level funded side, having partnerships with hospitals and doctors that can do lower cost alternatives for employees to have better care. So for example, the 5G health cards that a lot of you picked up today, that's a direct contracting that we've done on your behalf, where basically we've got discounted services. One of the big ones on there is MRIs for $560, and we also have a new partner. I can't announce it now, but we have a new partnership for MRIs in Appleton. So that used to be $560. It's going to be $595 for a partnership in Appleton for MRIs. So that's going to be brand new. We're going to have an exclusive partnership on that as well. And that's going to be coming within the next 2 months. So direct contracting is important because the cost of healthcare is going dramatically up, and it boils down to claims. If we can control the claims, we can control the spend. If we can't control the claims, it's difficult. So we got to have strategies on that. Compliance notices. The other thing that I'm seeing is a lot of HR people are maybe new into HR roles. And maybe they don't know what they're doing at all, and that's okay, because when I first started this, I had no idea what I was doing, so it's okay. You will learn. Chuckles, you get that. So it's okay that you don't know everything. We've got an excellent team, and if you don't have a team for account managers and compliance, you've got to get one, because the Department of Labor they're tracking down. So making sure your HR team has the required notices that you're supposed to be giving employees. We've got a packet as well as a video sign-off sheet that we can provide to you that gets you all the notices laid out into one nice sign-off sheet that gets you in compliance with probably 95% of the compliance notices you're supposed to be doing. So make sure that you're doing the compliance. Deferred comp, this is another one that I'm seeing really big out there, is benefits. And Rick and I and Kyle, we've all had conversations on benefits. You have to do it for everybody, right? You have to, if you're going to offer it to them, you have to do the same consistency. Your 401k match is going to be the same. Your health plan is going to be the same to everybody. So what are you doing? You know, maybe you're doing profit sharing or something like that. This could be something in addition to how are you keeping your top people? You know, deferred comp is a way for you to put something on your top people that allows them a benefit that if they stay with you till X number of years, they get the benefit. If they don't stay with you, they don't get the benefit at all. The company retains it. So you can discriminate on those, where basically you can say, hey, I have 50 employees, I'm going to put it on these top 2 people. You can do that. You can't do that for other benefits. This one you can. Where you put it on the top people, and if they stay with you till X number of years, they get it. If they leave, they don't get it. So it's a great retention tool because if you're not doing something for the top people, maybe you're paying more. This is a way for you to do that. The other thing I'm seeing, buy-sell protection. Make sure you guys, if you have other owners, make sure you are looking at your buy-sell agreement between what you have on agreement side of things as well as that it's funded. So I still meet with a lot of companies. Maybe they're fresh in business, or maybe they've been in business for a long time. It doesn't matter, because if one of you were to, let's say you had a husband and wife, husband dies, wife gets the ownership, unless there's an agreement in place. Does this other owner want to work with that other spouse? Probably not. They probably want their money and they want it right away. And if there's not an agreement, they could get it right away. So basically you put buy-sell protection, either life, disability, on those key employees, which are basically the owners, that provides the funding, an instant influx of cash to fund those buyouts. So just a couple things to think through as you're looking at this. The other thing is property value limits. Has the cost of, this isn't dealing with benefits, but it's just, is the cost of building increased? Yes, dramatically. So look at your building costs, your building limits. We are seeing them dramatically lower than what the actual cost to rebuild is right now. And look at your policy if you see something called co-insurance. So what co-insurance is a penalty for being underinsured. So let's say you had a $1 million building, you maybe bought it for $1 million, and now it's worth, might honestly be worth $2 million now. Basically, and it says 80% let's say it said 100% co-insurance. It means that if your building was $2 million, you did over should. So what did you have for a limit? You had $1 million. Divided by $2 million, that's what you should have had. They're going to pay 50% of the claim. So if you've never had a huge claim, this is a big deal. So you got to make sure your property limits are adequate. The last thing, I've had other seminars just specifically on work comp, but just throwing this out there, make sure people keep on it. 70% discount if your employees get back to work within 72 hours after an injury. If it gets coded as a 6 and not a 5. So basically, get back to work within 72 hours, it's being paid as medical only, and there's not any lost time claim paid by the carrier. Then you get a 70% discount on that claim counted against your experience bond. So the lower the claims you can have on the work comp side, the lower your experience bond will be, and the lower your premiums will be with work comp. So what I always say is, if somebody has a knee surgery, it's going to fall on your health insurance or it's going to fall on your work comp. It's going to fall on one of them, right? So, what are we doing? We also have Greg Waters is going to talk about wellness later. How are we proactively managing that? That is a big thing, is the return to work, the 70% discount. We can help with that as well. The last thing is just captive health plans. We're seeing a lot of employers moving to level funding. If you're under 50, self-funding with the captive side, where basically you can get a return of premium on the captive side. They can go on a long presentation just on that too, but just want to make sure we're looking at all the options. We call them 9 slots of health plans: self-funding, level funding, captives, fully insured. There's a lot of different slots you can look at that. Make sure you're looking at all the slots. All right, so that's my presentation. I'm going to get out of the way. I'm going to let the good speakers talk now, okay? So we have Nicole Solis is going to be here. Why don't you come on up, Nicole? Nicole, I have an agenda that I have to read. Let's make sure I stick to this today, right? So our next speaker is Nicole Solis, the lead benefits account manager here at 5G Benefits. She has 7 years of licensed insurance experience, including in marketing, account management, and most recently, a leadership role. Nicole has worked to implement and streamline internal processes, manages a client book of business, as well as assists with the onboarding and training of newly hired account managers. Nicole graduated from UW Green Bay and recently graduated from the Chamber's Leadership Green Bay program. Nicole is going to talk briefly on how 5G strives for consistency when servicing and training of staff and helping your new HR people. Let's welcome Nicole. Thanks, Nicole.
Hello, everyone. As Tony mentioned, my name is Nicole Solis, and I'm the lead account manager here at 5G Benefits. Each of you were welcomed by one of our dedicated account managers. So like them, I actually do have a book of business with clients that I service and manage their daily benefit needs, along with my partner in crime, Rick Desjardins. There's a hand waving. But in addition to that, Tony did touch on it briefly. I do actually assist with the onboarding and training of all of our newly hired employees, as well as work with our current staff to create a service model that is meeting the needs of all of our clients. So with that, I did want to actually introduce a new feature that we are offering all of our 5G clients, and it's what we refer to as our HR Video Vault. As a group, we met after the crazy hectic fourth quarter, and we just put our heads together and decided we need to create something for all of our HR contacts. And it was a list of topics that ranged anywhere from state continuation, COBRA, HSA education, HRAs and how they apply to your medical plan, and really just a ton of different topics that we felt we were receiving questions on from our clients. So we just wanted to make sure that we created something that they could have at their fingertips at any given time. So you will see on here that this is the direct link that will take you to that vault, but I will actually preface this link to being only offered to our current 5G clients. It is password protected, so for any of our clients, we will be sharing this information once the event is wrapped up today. So really what you're going to see, there's actually a snippet of it in the bottom right, bottom left-hand corner. That's just our cover page to our HR Video Vault. Just providing a brief description on some of the topics that you'll be finding in there. There are videos ranging, like I said, from anywhere from our state continuation, COBRA, HSAs. The nice thing about these videos is that they're very informal. Actually, you will hear from some familiar voices as these were videos put together by the entire agency. So everyone had a hand in creating this video vault. I actually do want to touch on one other thing before I actually pass it on. I do apologize. My time up here is brief, but I want to make sure that I maximize my time with you. We get this question a lot as to what sets us apart. So whether it be a current prospect, a carrier, anyone that we are hiring, and my answer to this actually very rarely wavers, and it's just our proactive approach. We do genuinely care about our clients. We really care about building relationships, but it's just the approach we take in both the renewal and the quoting process. So right here, this might be a familiar diagram that some of you have seen, as we do like to include these in our emails out to our clients as we start to work on the renewal process. I'm not going to go into too much detail with each box, but it's just something to kind of make you aware of where we are at any given point during the process. So up on top, you'll see 100 to 100 days out before the renewal. Now this can vary depending on the size of group, just because with our larger groups, we tend to get those renewals a little earlier. But what will happen about 100 to 120 days out, you will receive an email from us just letting you know, hey, the renewal is going to be coming up soon. If there are any changes internally, any structural changes, any thoughts to any additional benefits you want to offer, let us know. We'll meet with you so we can talk through those things, okay? Depending on the size of group, again, as it gets to the 90 days before renewal, most carriers nowadays will quote via census, but there are some that do still require health apps if it's a smaller group. 90 days is typically going to be your cutoff as to when you can offer those health apps to your employees. Carriers will typically not allow health apps to be dated any later than that, so that will be your date as to when you can distribute those to all of your full-time eligible employees. 45 to 60 days, that's typically when we receive the renewal. That's normally also the missing piece as to when carriers will provide the final firm rates, as they kind of want to see what they're stacking up against. And then from there, as soon as we have those renewals and those first quick offers, that's essentially when we are setting meetings with our clients again. We want to make sure that we have options for you as soon as that renewal is received, okay? So 20 to 30 days, we are distributing any carrier information out to groups with their employees to fill out any plan changes. If there's a carrier change, we want to make sure all those carrier enrollment forms are out there so that they can make any changes necessary. And then the 14 days out is normally when we would like to get everything gathered so we can have it submitted to our carriers. The reason why we want to put that 2-week window in there is not only to have everything off of your plate as context, but really to get the carriers all the information they need to not only get all the information, but to install it on their end. So that way you provide enough time to get all the information and ID cards generated, that type of thing. So that's really our renewal process. Again, this is now my 3rd year with 5G, and coming from a different employer, I will say that this is the first time I've ever had this proactive approach, and I absolutely love it. And this is something that I will echo from here on out to anyone who's ever asked that question. So with that, I'm going to actually turn it back over to Tony, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of the event. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. Awesome. And Nicole's a rock star, trains all of our account managers consistent, make sure they're doing a consistent approach with how we're doing things. So I have another speaker. Our next speaker is Eric Silverman, who's going to join us with a pre-recorded Zoom, actually, because he had a pre-arranged national speaking arrangement prior to joining 5G. Eric comes to 5G with more than 22 years of employee benefit sales, marketing, management, and recruiting experience. His primary focus is around employee benefits communication to drive employee engagement. Eric has received the Voluntary Advisor of the Year award by EBA Magazine, is a contributing author to the Amazon best-selling book Breaking Through the Status Quo, and host of his nationally recognized podcast Rockstars Rocking. Eric is going to bring everyone here ideas to get your employees engaged and better educated on their benefits. At this time, I am going to play Eric's presentation for today.
Hey, everybody. My name's Eric Silverman. I'm the new Vice President of Employee Engagement at 5G Benefits, and I'm so sorry that I'm not able to be there with you today live in person. I really want to be there. I wish I could be there, but many months earlier, I was asked to speak at an industry trade publication event in Austin, Texas. So by the time you're seeing this, I am in Austin, probably on stage live. And I hope you can appreciate it. I just could not let them down. Anyway, today I want to talk about the exciting things that we at 5G Benefits have in store for all of our existing clients and hopefully a bunch of new ones as well. And my role within the firm is to help drive employee communication and employee engagement. The reality, if you think about it, is as business owners, as HR departments, as companies in the C-suite, you spend so much time and so much money putting together an incredible benefits package for your employees. But the reality is the average employee probably, when surveyed, just doesn't understand what their benefits do, what they should do, what they can do, and how to really best use their benefits. So my job is to really make sure that employees start to become more engaged. And to me, it all starts through communication. So I'm going to go through pretty fast because I'm on a tight schedule here. Tony's got a long meeting and it's chock full of good stuff. So they're only giving me 20 minutes. So I'm going to blaze through a lot of it, but don't worry. I hope to speak to most of you in the near term to go over everything in detail. So don't worry about taking notes. Just if you can, do me a favor, please listen, try to absorb, and hopefully I give you a couple good ideas that get you excited for what's in store, again, here at 5G Benefits. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, so this is called, to me, it's called employee communication, which is really what drives engagement. And to me, it is the true missing piece of the benefits puzzle. So I'm a big perception equals reality type of person. And our goal with all of our clients at 5G is to have all of your employees view your company benefit package as even greater and more rich than a Fortune 500 and or even a Global 1000 company. So you say, well, Eric, I'm Eric, by the way, just to remember. Hey, Eric, I'm not a Fortune 500 company. I'm not a Global 1000 company. I don't have the budget and the bandwidth and the wherewithal to be able to do all these fancy, great benefits and communication strategies. Don't worry, I got you here. Let's keep going. So first off, everything that I'm going to talk about today is centered around marketing to your existing employee population. That's the biggest takeaway you can understand. It's marketing to your existing population. You know, if you think about it as a company, most of you are spending lots of money and time marketing for new customers, right? We're no different. But the reality is, when you're marketing for new customers, the question I would ask you is, all the time and money you spend on doing that, how often do you actually market to your existing employee population to tell them and remind them how fantastic they have it, how great your benefits are, right? Most employers that we talk to, I've been in the business now 23 years, and most employers tell me that they very much do not remind their employees of how great their benefits are and all the benefits to working there as much as they know they probably should. And I tell you what, the worst time to find out that an employee didn't understand their benefits, and that's one of the reasons they're leaving, is if you're doing an exit interview. You doing an exit interview means that it's too late. And ultimately, of course, the greatest benefits on earth aren't going to keep that employee around at that point. So it's important to market it around the year to make sure employees remember and never forget how generous of a package you've put together for them. So as an example, the biggest, easiest way to communicate benefits is email. People say to me all the time, oh yeah, well, when it's open enrollment time or we have new hires, we just go ahead and send everybody an email. And that's fine. We would encourage you to do the same. We're not telling you to change that. And I don't believe that email is dead. Hence why I said email is not dead. The reality though, if I can be honest, how many of you would agree you don't check email as often as you used to back in the day, many years ago? How many of you would agree that your employees probably don't check email as often as they could or should or they used to? How many of you would agree that most employees, depending on your industry, depending on your company, many of your employees may not even get a company issued email address because of the nature of their business, the nature of what they do for a living, right? Maybe they're in the field all day. Maybe they're on the line all day. So again, email's one form of communication. It still works and we want to use it, but you can't stop there, right? Let's talk about voicemail. Imagine a situation where it's open enrollment and we have an automated system that just literally gives everybody a voicemail where they don't even get a message. They don't even get a ring on their cell phone. It's called ringless voicemail technology, where they all of a sudden a little red star pops up on their cell phone and it's a voicemail that's pre-recorded that just says, hey, it's open enrollment time for ABC Plumbing. Check your email and stay on the lookout for more details. Thank you for being such a valuable member to our team, right? Something really basic, something really short and sweet. I get similar ringless voicemails from my daughter's school and my son's school where I don't even know it's coming. All of a sudden I look down and there's a voicemail and it's automated telling me about closings and delays and half days and teacher conferences and so forth. This technology exists. Why aren't we using it to better communicate benefits, open enrollment, and for new hires around the year? Let's keep moving. What's better than email? Text messaging. The average person responds to a text message within 90 seconds. 90 seconds. Imagine, in addition to, not replacing, in addition to the email that you send them, imagine them getting a text message. And this is just an example on the screen. I probably imagine you can't read it very well. It's tiny print, but it just says ABC Company. This is the first in a short series of text messages about your benefits open enrollment. This is not spam. Do not delete. Open enrollment begins today, Monday. The date here says January 31st. Click below for your new plan details and login information. Have questions about your options? Click below to schedule time to speak one-on-one with a dedicated benefits specialist. Thanks for your support and completing your open enrollment in a timely fashion. and then we sign it as ABC Company Management, the name of your company, right? Guys, the reality is we're in a text message society. If Bed Bath & Beyond and Papa John's Pizza and all these major national companies, Home Depot, if they can send me a text message letting me know about a sale that's coming up, why aren't we using this same technology to communicate and help our employees become better consumers of healthcare when it comes to employees, right? Think about this. Medical insurance, healthcare in general, is literally, for most of you, the second, maybe third highest expenditure on your payroll each and every year on your P&L, right behind payroll, right? Why aren't we communicating better? We spend all that time and effort, and you spend all your money on benefits. We are equipped, and we want to make sure that your employees are better communicated with, and therefore better engaged. And if they're better engaged, then I tell you what, it's going to lead to better participation and better understanding of where to go, what to do when it comes to benefits in all situations, whether it be an emergency or an illness or anything in between. Text message is not going anywhere. It's here to stay, and you need to be embracing text message communication as a technology when it comes to communicating benefits. Now, what's another way? And again, we don't want to just do email. We don't want to just do voicemail. We don't want to just do text. How about using your intranet if you have one? If you don't have an intranet, right? Some of you might have a Slack channel or a Microsoft Teams channel that you have set up with your company, right? Why would you not communicate benefits in these same intranet, Slack, and Microsoft Teams, or any other type of system that you may have, right? These are just some popular ones. If you think about it logically, all I explain to our employer group clients all the time is, we'll send the text message. It's not going to cost you anything. We'll handle all the marketing, all the back office, all the management of it. And when you get that text message, simply cut and paste the message and put it into your Slack channel or your Microsoft Teams exchange or your intranet system, whatever it might be. Again, some people are going to be quicker to check email. Some of your people will prefer text message. Some people will love the opportunity to read information from Slack or Microsoft Teams. Again, you don't want to just do one system. Raise your hand, anybody? If you've ever had to hunt down people to get their enrollment done, you've ever had to chase them down just to get them to sign a piece of paperwork or a digital piece of paperwork electronically. These systems will greatly aid in your ability to stop the nonsense, stop the madness, and you won't have to track people down and chase them nearly as much as you ever did before because of these strategies, and again, because of these systems. Now, let's talk about other opportunities. And again, I want to be clear. I don't know that I said this, and I apologize. You're not going to implement every single thing I talk about today within your company, at least not in the first year. It's a 3 to 5 year custom strategy that we tailor for your needs. Who am I to judge you or to tell you what to do? You know your people. You know the ladies in your office. You know the ladies in the field. You know the guys in the field. You know the guys in the office, right? We work directly with you to figure out what's going to be a great strategy moving forward. And it's usually a 1-2 combo punch of a few different strategies that I'm going over today. Okay. Here's another one. How about an all-inclusive single app, right? Every insurance carrier you work with, I guarantee they give you an app, and they want all their employees to download the app so they can file claims and learn information. What if we provided to you one single app that aggregated all of your insurance carriers and all their data, and it even stored their ID card for the insurance company? What if it was all in one place? This technology exists. I'm not going to have a chance to go through it all today, but again, it exists, and it's quite remarkable. What about employer video marketing? This is really my favorite thing to talk about. I could do this video, a similar video, and I can have you send it out to all your employees. I promise you, sorry, for me, nobody cares. Tony, you're watching, man. I love you, brother. But you could send a video of you, and no disrespect, you're my boss, but nobody cares. Who do they want to see? Who do they care about? How about the president, the CEO, the CFO, the chief executive human resource director, the owner, the operator, the manager, somebody in an executive level position? These are some of our clients, and these are some of the marketing videos that we put together. Imagine literally we send you a pre-scripted template where you just read it, on to your iPhone, or you can record on Zoom or your Android device. You send us the video file, and we will literally turn it into something special that we can blast broadcast to all your employees on text message, email, Slack, Teams, intranet, et cetera, et cetera. All of a sudden, they're getting a communicated message directly from you as their boss, letting them know how excited you are about this year's open enrollment. So I want to play for you just a couple examples so you can get an idea of what something like that looks like. These are real life, true examples with existing clients of ours.
Hello, everybody. It's open enrollment time again. I have a few features I want to highlight for you very quickly. First of all, there's no rollover of benefits, so you must go out there and re-enroll or enroll for the first time if you want health insurance. Within the health insurance plan, we're going to offer preventive care at no copay and no deductibles for employees and families. For full-time employees, we're also going to offer $15,000 of life insurance at no cost to you. And for anyone that goes through open enrollment, whether it's a full-time or a part-time employee, whether or not you take health insurance, we're going to offer MD Live for free with no copays, no deductibles. I'm sure you're going to be hearing a lot about this in the next few days. There'll be texts, there'll be emails, but we want to make sure that everyone's aware of this and you have an opportunity to look at those. And I believe that you will hear again from me and several other people in the next few weeks. Thank you.
So that's Doug. He's the president and CEO of Benchmark. And we did a series of 3 videos, which we recommend. So the first video is just introducing it. It's right before open enrollment. Hey, everybody, great things happening type video. Really, really positive stuff, right? He videoed himself using his iPhone, he told me, and then he sent us the organic file, and we made it look really fancy, you know, like Applebee's. If you don't get the joke, just, I'm a dad. That's a dad joke. Forget it. Anyway, we then talked to somebody like Pam. Pam's the executive vice president of another client, Travel Cruise, and she said she's not comfortable being on video. So she said, hey, is there a way I can do this without being on camera? I said, great. We can just take your headshot and we can lay your voice track over your headshot, and you can record your voice. Just leave me a cell phone message, or you can record it on Zoom. And here's what that looks like.
Hey guys, Pam here. I wanted to drop in and share what we've been working on for you over the last couple of months. This year's benefits open enrollment is starting very soon, and we've spent a tremendous amount of time, energy, and money on beefing up our benefits package to ensure that you and your families have the ability to be protected for anything that 2021 can throw at us. A quick important reminder is that this year's open enrollment will be entirely virtual. We'll be using our new web-based self-serve system, and we'll have an on-demand call center set up for those of you who'd like to chat with a benefits counselor. Please keep in mind that everyone must go through the open enrollment to either opt in, opt out, or waive benefits. Stay tuned for more details via text message, and as always, thanks for all the help and support you give our team each and every day. Without you, we'd have no business at all. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Pam. Guys, that message from both Doug and Pam is so much more powerful than if it was coming from myself or from anybody on our 5G team. This message is super impactful. We send a mid-enrollment message, very similar. It's usually 30 seconds. Hey guys, it's the middle of open enrollment. There's still a few stragglers. We need your help. Let's get moving. And then we send one final message at the end of the enrollment. So let's just imagine you were a 7/1 effective date. We would send a thank you message, which is 30 seconds. You would send that a week or two after the enrollment. And it's just you simply saying, hey, thanks for your support. You guys are the best. Appreciate you. Make sure you let us know if you have any questions. We're here to help. So we kind of handle it in a 3-pronged approach: intro, mid-cycle, and then at the end. And again, we do all the heavy lifting for you. Doesn't cost you a nickel, and we do all the work. Now, let's keep moving. What if you had a single landing page to house all of your links, right? So imagine this is something we create for you. It's customized for every employer. We'll make it look and feel as close to your logo color as possible. We'll put your logo at the top of it. And every time they click on a link within this page, they will literally be brought the benefits guide, the announcement video. They'll get the employee navigator link or the ease link or the payroll link for whichever system you have them enroll in, right? And there's also a link where they can schedule themselves for to speak to a call center representative. So we create these for you, and they're 365 day living, breathing organisms, like literally 24/7 access. So how many times do you have employees that ask you throughout the year, hey boss, I can't remember about this benefit and I can't remember about that, and what's my copay and what's my deductible and what doctor should I go to? All you have to do is keep this link on file and send them this link every single time. And we can update the link. We can add things to the link. We can change things around. We can put them in a different order. This one in the blue, PBCR, is a client of ours, is a casino. After the enrollment for January 1, they know that the federal government was giving away free COVID tests to everybody if you went online and ordered yours. So they wanted it to be highlighted right at the top of their link. So again, we can talk about things that are benefits and even things that aren't benefits. Now, keep moving. We provide to you our self-serve online enrollment system. We refer to it internally sometimes as the Amazon of benefits. So some of you have some of these systems already in place, and if you don't, we'll provide the system for you. And we typically lean on a company by the name of Employee Navigator. That's our go-to system, but we're pretty familiar with all of them out there in the marketplace. They're very robust, they're very expensive, and they're not going to cost you a nickel. That's what we're here for, is to help. And you know, the reality, long gone are the days are where you need somebody to come in and hold hands with your employees and spoon feed them all the benefit information. Most of our clients do a self-serve open enrollment throughout the year for new hires, and most certainly each year at their actual quote unquote open enrollment. It works incredible. If you can order something on the Amazon app on your iPhone or your Android device, then you can definitely enroll and learn about benefits that way as well. You can watch videos that way. You can download brochures. You can find out rates. You can enroll. And frankly, from a compliance perspective, it's mission critical that we get everybody to have a digital footprint, i.e. their signature, that they either opted in for benefits or they waived and opted out. That keeps you in compliance, and that way you don't have any challenges if you were ever audited from a DOL perspective or any of those fun departments up there in the federal and state governments. Now, let's keep going. Almost done. On-demand call center, right? Instead of having employees sit down one-on-one during work hours with a counselor, which is very unproductive, it's very archaic, it's very old school, why not just let us set up an on-demand call center? So just like Comcast and Verizon have on-demand TV shows and Netflix, right? This is on demand. It's not required. It's voluntary. If you have an employee who has a question about their benefits and they just want to have somebody walk them through the benefits, maybe they want to have it with their spouse at 8 o'clock at night on a Tuesday. We have on-demand call center hours we can put together for your situation where employees can chat with a licensed professional counselor who is not getting paid commission. They are getting paid simply to be a counselor per diem, and or most of them are actually on our payroll. So therefore, you're in a position where employees get serious professional candid advice to best guide them when it comes to medical and dental and any other benefit you could imagine that you may have in place or that we could help you put in place. Now, keep it moving. How many of you are currently actually advertising your open enrollment on social media? I don't have a lot of time to go through this, but think about it logically. We are in a cause-driven society. You ever heard of Mission Belts or Tom's Shoes or Patagonia? These are companies that are big into charity. Well, think about it. If you're a plumbing company and your Facebook page talks about open enrollment and how much you care about your employees and you're looking forward to this year's changes and updates, is it good or bad for potential customers to see that? If I'm flipping through Facebook and I'm looking for a plumbing company, is it a good thing for me as a potential customer to learn and know about your culture and that how much you care about your employees? Or is it bad? Most people say it's good. Furthermore, we encourage and we put a campaign together. We want all of your employees to get their significant other and their spouse to like and follow your Facebook and Instagram page, etc. Why? Because when you announce open enrollment and their significant other sees it, when they get home that night or on the weekend, they can literally say, hey, I saw online it's your open enrollment. Let's make sure we prioritize that and get that done, right? It's a good thing when you communicate social media properly. Don't worry, we'll help you do it. That's what we're here for. It's not going to cost you a nickel. Keep going. Virtual recorded video conferencing, similar to what we're doing now. I don't really need to explain it. There's some really crazy innovative things out there too. Artificial intelligence decision support tools. I know, crazy, right? Multi-language virtual reality 3D avatars, multi-language, right? I'm not going to go over details. If any of these strike your fancy, please let me know. But I'm just trying to give you examples of things that exist that are out there that we can bring to the table, because again, you can't just rely on email in the year 2022 moving forward. All right, let's finalize this by talking about one final thing that I think is just a really neat idea that we have the ability to bring to the table. It's called our zero invoice enhanced benefits technology. If you're familiar, a lot of companies have like a Christmas account where employees can utilize what's called split direct deposit, where ultimately, if I'm an employee and I say, hey, boss, you know, I'm really bad at saving money, but I'd like to have automatically $50 redirected from my paycheck every month into a separate account. Can you do that for me? Not all of you maybe, but a lot of you will say, sure, I could do that. Do it right through the bank, right? Some of you will have set that up for people when it comes to custody issues and child support, right? We have the ability to set up the exact same technology when it comes to invoicing for carriers. So instead of getting a carrier invoice every month where you have to manually reconcile and hope and pray that it's right. Anybody ever had that headache, right? I'm not going to name carriers. It's not fair, but there are a lot of carriers out there in the voluntary employee benefit space that just aren't really good with invoicing. And it's a pain in the, you know what? Imagine as an employer, if you never got an invoice again, right? That technology actually exists. And I know that it might be confusing, but I want you to know that it exists, because if that's a pain point and a frustrating thing for you each and every month, we need to talk about it because we have a solution. All right. Now, finally, everybody always says, well, hey, Eric, I'm still Eric, by the way. The cost, like all this stuff, I mean, nothing's free in life, right? So sure, a lot of everything we're talking about certainly has a cost to it. You could pay for it as an employer. Don't recommend. Your employees could pay for it. Don't recommend. We as your advisor broker team can pay for it. Highly recommend. But even better, a lot of our carriers, insurance carriers and solution providers, they will pay for you. Case by case, of course, but it's very rare that they're not excited to help with funding. So we handle all that and figure that out all for you. So don't worry, don't think about it, don't stress. That's our job, right? And then sometimes it's a hybrid of many different situations. A lot of times we do cost sharing with our carriers and solution providers and vendor partners. Anyway, look, guys, it's been a pleasure. I truly appreciate your time. Tony's going to kill me because I went 4 or 5 minutes over. I hope you get to see this entire video. I really do appreciate you. I thank you for tuning in, and I really do genuinely look forward to meeting each and every one of you at some point in the future, even if it's just virtual to start. Thanks.
So we got a short break here in about 10 minutes. I got one more speaker on the wellness side. It's Greg Waters. So our next speaker is Greg Waters from Trio Wellness, an exclusive wellness partner of 5G Benefits. Instead of having one person hired for 5G to do wellness, we exclusively partner with Trio to have an entire wellness team. Greg joined Johnson Health Tech in 1996 as a co-founder and past president of Vision Fitness. He has served on the board of directors for Fort Healthcare and currently serves as a city council president in Lake Mills, Wisconsin. With over 30 years of health and fitness industry experience, he is excited about the exclusive arrangement between Trio and Wellness and 5G Benefits. Trio provides proactive wellness solutions that will benefit your organization and help employees discover healthier lifestyles. Please welcome Greg Waters.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I brought a helper today, Coach Laura. She's based in the Milwaukee area. She's worked, we got her from Freighter Hospital. She worked with medical professionals for over a decade, helping them find their healthy habits, I guess.
Yes.
She's gonna get us all up and get our blood moving. I know it's a little cold in here, so take over, Laura.
All right, can you hear me? All right, so everybody stand on up. So yes, I am Coach Laura. I am with Trio Wellness. So we're gonna get moving today here. Perfect. All right, so let's just start. Let's just shoulders up and back. Let's just move, take some deep breaths. We've been sitting here for a little while. And let out that deep breath. Good. Take it forward. Shoulder rolls forward. How's everybody doing? We're at Lambeau Field. It's a beautiful sunny day. Take that right arm and just pull that right arm across. And again, relax the shoulders, breathe. You've taken a lot of information. I'm a fitness instructor, so I apologize if I sound loud or if I yell at you. Take that left arm, pull it across. 20 years I've been teaching group fitness. It's hard to believe. 20 years. All right, take those arms down. Take that right arm, left ear, look down at the ground, and just gently pull towards that right. If you want a deeper stretch, take that left arm and hold it back behind your low back. And just feel that stretch. Again, remembering to breathe. Good, and then slowly shoulder roll, take it over to your left, left to right ear, keep the eyes down at the ground, and then take that right arm if you want that deeper stretch. And again, breathe and relax. Good, and release it down. Take those arms up to the sky, take that right arm over to the left, and then just gently pull over to the right, feeling that side body stretch, and then come center, take that left to the right, over to the left. It's like a good morning stretch, right? Good, take those arms, interlace the fingers, kind of round the back, bend the knees slightly, pushing forward. And then if any of you yogis are out there, cactus arms, you bring it back, heart opener, be grateful for the day, grateful that we're all here in person together. Bring the hands to the heart center, slightly bow just forward, and make it a great day.
Thank you, Laura. We can all take our seats now.
Now you can sit down. Yep, you're welcome.
All right. I don't know about you, but that felt good for me. So thank you for participating. Trio Wellness is a division of Johnson Health Tech. It's one of the largest fitness manufacturers in the world. We do about $1 billion of fitness equipment sales each year. And we got into wellness because we realized that a lot of people needed extra help. We had all that equipment out there, but 66% of Americans want help determining their best method for improving their health. And this was pre-COVID. Can you imagine what those numbers are now after COVID? Tony reached out to us about 3 years ago, he and his team, and they were looking for proactive ways to address the cost of healthcare actually going up. I'm sure everyone in this room has felt that. I was at a conference yesterday where Rand Corporation outlined that health plans for families are $22,000 a year right now. And I'm sure you're all feeling that. And the way the United States has things set up, businesses bear that brunt. They pay those healthcare costs. And I don't see anything changing. So for you, the best thing you can do is to partner with innovative companies like 5G that can help you with those costs and find unique strategies to move that forward. Since COVID, employee health concerns have changed rapidly. There's still that weight concern. 46% of the people want to address their weight gain. But when you look at the next two, stress and mental health, that's almost 70%. That's a much larger number than it was before. A lot of people are looking for ways to address those strategies. Trio Wellness does have ways to address those strategies. And then also 27% are concerned with sleep issues, and 27% are concerned with bone, muscle, and joint issues. So that's a recent study. Trio, you can use it anywhere, anytime, on any device. So you can take our plan, you can use it at work, you can use it at remote locations, you can use it on the road, you can use it at home. It's a digital system combined with coaching, and it works on any electronic platform. So proactive companies that embrace this employee-first culture, the culture of health is right there with sustainability, with your social media applications, your financial security, your continuous improvement, and shared resources as far as the shared mission and the shared goals that you have with your employees. The culture of health, of course, plays a large role with your health insurance plan, your disability, your EAPs, but it also includes this digital solution that we're talking about with coaching, having the healthy nudges, the daily habits that move you in the right direction, and having a healthy food environment. Having this proactive wellness benefits actually improve recruitment. To have a plan like this, you have a plan that competes with the big boys, the larger companies that are stealing employees. This program will help with recruitment, it'll help with retention and productivity, which is important. I know that we're all experiencing the great resignation that we're all seeing. A lot of that has to do with the burnout that employees are receiving right now. So this is, we recognize that TRIO is a platform that needs to be unique, and it's not the same for everybody. So you need to have systems in place that allow for different individuals. So we have systems that allow for weight loss, healthy choices, building stronger and leaner bodies, more energy and less stress. When you get into about my age group, you're starting to be concerned about health and brain, your heart and your brain health, having healthy activities, and of course those that have pre-existing conditions are moving towards diabetes or hypertension. We have solutions for that as well. Our platform is designed to be used with other applications. So not only is your healthy habits here that you can actually track, but if you want to have stress-related issues where you resolve stress with breathing activities or yoga, we have that built into our app. Since we are a fitness company as well, we have online classes so that you can use our equipment. We want you to be using those treadmills and exercise bikes. We also have discounts. If you want discounts on fitness equipment, that's included in the package. Healthy eating, we have a dietitian on staff. She does cooking classes and gives eating tips as well. So if you'd like to learn more about TRIO Wellness, feel free to reach out to me at greg.waters@triowellness.com. Also, we have free applications, a newsletter. We have webinars that are available to all the 5G clients. So you can, if you want to opt in on those, you can just contact your 5G representative and they can get you opt-in as well. So thank you for having us, and I think we're going to a lunch break, right, Tony? No. Not a lunch break, we're going to a regular break.
Regular break.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Greg. So, funny story, when everyone was standing up going like this, I had a newer employee walk in, and everyone's kind of like this. She looks at me like, what is going on? I didn't know it was that type of seminar. Okay, so our first speaker, John Wicker from Employee Benefits Corporation, is with Employee Benefits Corporation's sales team since 1995 and has assisted hundreds of employers with the setup, design, and enrollment of their Flex Plan, HRA, COBRA. John earned the designation of CFC from the Employers Council on Flexible Compensation in 2002 and CDC designation from the National Association of Health Underwriters. John has gained a reputation as a very knowledgeable source in the areas of pre-tax benefits and COBRA. John works with hundreds of our 5G clients on their compliance needs. Please welcome John Wicker.
All right, thank you everyone. So I was asked by Tony and his team just to come here today and talk to you a little bit about EBC and specific some of the services, and maybe talk to you about just a couple of those in a little more detail. We actually have a booth out there. Some of you visited before we started. So I'm not going to take a lot of time, try and get you back on track for time today, but just a little background about EBC. As Tony said, I've been there for a long time, like 27 years. You tend to lose track when it's that long, but EBC's been in business out of Madison for 30 plus years. We're actually an employee-owned company, so we have a lot of stability in the marketplace, and I've worked with Tony and his staff for quite a while, and he says, as he said, we have a lot of groups that we work cooperatively together to help their benefit package. But up in the corner is kind of some of the services we provide. What I'm going to talk about today mainly is some compliance services, COBRA, which is a very big topic these days. As far as benefit plans for employers that we help, COBRA is probably number one, as far as the number of clients that we have that utilize that service. HRAs are also another big product for us. 5G Benefits is a very big proponent of HRAs. A lot of you may already have those. So we'll talk a little bit about those as well. One of the things that you get with EBC, which is still kind of different in our industry, is every single one of our administrative clients has a dedicated account rep. You don't go to a call center. You don't email a help desk. We don't have to produce a ticket every time you want some help. You can call us, speak to that person, email that person directly. Being in Madison, employee owned, we still have that hands-on approach to our customer service, and a lot of groups that we mow over from other TPAs, that's one of the biggest reasons they do it, is they don't like the self-serve and that type of information. We are file feed specialists, so you see on the HRA file feeds, we work with almost every carrier in the state. We work with most of the larger and some of the smaller Ben admin systems. Navigator's heavily used by 5G as well, and we're one of their preferred partners, so we can get Navigator files for COBRA, FSAs, and those types of benefits. We also have, one of our biggest things is our compliance expertise. For a company of our size, we have about 175 employees. We have 6 people in our compliance department, and 2 of them are benefit attorneys. So they're very active, especially the last 2 years. You may have a lot of changes happen in the benefits area with COVID, especially in our area, especially in COBRA. That whole subsidy thing that came out of nowhere last year, 2 years ago. All the changes to FSA plans, HRA plans, they were very heavily involved in getting communication out to our groups, doing webinars. And they also assist a lot in, still strong and heavy are the mergers and acquisitions in the world today. So questions always come up, what do we do with COBRA? We have a flex plan, what happens to it when we're moving it over here? So they get involved, and you can speak directly to one of our COBRA or our compliance specialists if you need that help as well. So that's also a big thing that we provide, that 5G is backup as well as our clients. One of the big ones we want to talk about today is compliance. A lot of people have a lot of questions about compliance services, and one of the big ones we do are 5500s. I am still amazed by the number of groups I talk to that never filed a 5500, ever. And they're not small groups. So just to make everyone aware, if you are an ERISA employer, now people always ask, well, am I an ERISA employer? Are you a church or a municipal government? If you're not one of those two, you are an ERISA employer. Doesn't matter if you're a nonprofit, have 2 employees. If you are anything other than a church or a municipal, like a county, state, city, town, and you offer group benefits, group dental, vision, you are an ERISA employer. You have no choice. And then the next question is, how many people do you have on the plan? The rule is, did you have over 100 participants on the first day of the plan for that year? Once you hit that mark, you have to file 5500. You must. It's a government requirement. Now, they were trying to reduce that to make everybody file 5500s. I don't know what they would do with all these 5500s. But as of right now, it's still 100. So if your benefits renew on January 1 and you had 98, but in July you went to 100, you do not file a 5500 yet because it's on the first day of the plan year. So next January, if you have 100, then you have to file for that year, which is due by the following July. If it's only your health, sometimes it's people, the only people they have over 100 is on their life plan because it's employer sponsored. Then you just file a 5500 for your life plan, maybe nothing else. So it is benefit by benefit by benefit. If you don't have a wrap document in place yet, get one, put one in. Why? You're required to under ERISA. You have to have plan documents and SPDs. I bet you if you ask any of the carriers out in the lobby, none of them provide them. And the benefit is, once you go to a wrap document, you can file one 5500 for all the benefits that are under that wrap document. So you can go from filing 5 5500s to 1. So it decreases work, it decreases expenses. Very good idea to get those handled. But we do a lot of 5500s. If you haven't done them before, give me a call. It's time to fess up to the government. You don't want to all of a sudden just start filing them. There is a late filer program. There are going to be penalties. There are going to be fees involved. But we've done it for groups that haven't filed for 15 years. That was costly. But it's better to get that fixed than get caught, because the fines are very high for not filing 5500s. I don't know what the government does with them, but they like them. And if you don't file them, they're going to fine you. One of the others is COBRA. So similar to Cobra. Cobra is another benefit that is only for ERISA employers. So again, if you're a church, no Cobra. You can offer Cobra, but you're not required to. We do Cobra for some church-governed universities and things like hospital systems. They're not required to, but it's a good idea, so they just do it. Or if you're municipal government, state, town, city, you don't have to abide by Cobra. So Cobra, the rule is, do you have more than 20 employees? Well, this is a little more complicated. In the preceding calendar year, did you have more than 20 employees on 50% of your business days? So you gotta look at payroll. We have groups that go from Wisconsin State continuation to Cobra. Cobra again, then down to Wisconsin State, because they're hovering on that 20. So the 20 employees is the mark. Now don't think, I only have 15 employees, I'm not subject to Cobra. That's true, but Wisconsin has its own state continuation laws. They're different. It only applies to health insurance, but you still have to offer the employee to continue in that. So we do both. Again, I always question you. I've been doing this for 27 years, and I almost always say this. If you are doing Cobra yourself, I can almost guarantee you're not doing it right. There's just way too much to know. Way too much to know, way too many changes. If you're pulling your Cobra notices off Google, off the internet, I don't know how accurate those are. Even the DOL service, you can pull them off, but they have a big disclaimer on these are not updated after the date we release these. So even the ones off their site aren't applicable. So very cost-effective benefit to get rid of all that work, all that liability. You always have to remember when you're offering Cobra, it's always a bad situation. Someone's terminated, someone's died, someone's got divorced, and you're telling them you have to pay this much for your health insurance. And it's a lot. So sometimes it's good to outsource that. And this is complete outsourcing. You just notify us when something happens, we take care of everything else. So it gets rid of a lot of liability and a lot of work. Also wondering, is this notice I'm sending out correct? Am I sending out all the correct notices? There's a lot of different Cobra letters that could go out to somebody. So just be aware of that. Flex again, we do Flex Plan Administration. Most people are pretty familiar with those. And then on the HRA side, I just want to go through that quick because I see Tony's inching over by me. On the bottom, we work a lot with them. So on the bottom, you can see why. We have partnerships with almost all the carriers in the state that we actually get the eligibility data, the claims data, very popular benefit. The claim files makes it work very seamlessly, paying the provider directly, so the work on your employees is very minimal, but it's a good cost savings approach that Tony's team works quite a bit on and has a lot of those HRAs with EBC as well. So if you have any questions during one of the breaks, please come out and see me. I'm just out at the booth and be happy to talk to you.
All right. Thanks, John. All right. Thank you, John. Oh, I think you took my sheet. You take my speaker sheet? I kind of need that. All right. Thanks, John. Our next speaker is Bree Jens. Bree initially joined Gable Insurance as an office assistant, so maybe you have seen 5G Benefits, Gable Insurance. Gable Insurance is our personal division. As an office assistant back in 2013 and was one of our very first hires. She quickly showed interest in expanding her knowledge in health insurance and ended up getting her health and life licenses in 2015. Bree now works with hundreds of individuals on their personal insurance and Medicare needs. On May 1st, Bree was promoted to individual health and Medicare manager for all of 5G Benefits and Gable Insurance. Bree will bring ideas for your company to help your employees on their personal needs as they get closer to retirement and to that Medicare age. Please welcome Bree Jens.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for having me to talk about retirement. So what you might have seen is you have employees that are asking themselves, they might have said, I wish I could retire, but I can't because I need health insurance. And as we just heard, you know, Cobra can be a little bit expensive. So we're here to kind of assist your clients in what other options are there that are available, as well as making their time that they have with you productive. Because we all know that at some point they're going to retire. So we want to make sure that that process is as smooth as possible so that you guys get the quality time with your employers. We work with strategies, things like HSA contributions, deductible IRA, 401k, increasing those amounts, deferring Social Security to keep the incomes as low as possible, to keep the premiums down as far as possible for your employees. The prices of the health insurances do depend on the counties because we work with the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare, so Brown County is one of the more pricey counties, but I know we're looking at all across Wisconsin. So looking at a couple, husband and wife in Brown County, based on these income limits, these are what the premiums are looking. I have the income, the tax credit, and the premium with that tax credit included. For 2022, because of the American Rescue Plan Act back in 2021, there's no income cap. You can make up to $200,000 as a married couple and still get a tax credit for this year. As far as we know for next year, that income cap is going to come back. And so what we bring to the table are planning strategies to bring couples and individuals into that limit to get that tax credit. We also work a lot with Medicare. Are there people here that have employers that are, their employees are over 65? Awesome. So what we do is we will do an analysis with your employee to see if it makes sense for your employee to stay on your group plan. We find that about 85% of the time it actually makes sense for the employee to come off of the group plan and onto a Medicare plan, which is a win-win for everybody. So things that we'll look at prescriptions, we'll look at where they're doctoring, we'll look at making sure that they are not on an HSA plan and taking Medicare. So we'll look at all of those planning strategies to make the recommendation that's appropriate for the client. We do work on behalf of the client, so we don't make a recommendation for someone to come off of a group plan if it doesn't make sense for them. But there are a lot of instances, as you can see in the example listed here, that we had a client that was on a group plan and their out-of-pocket maximum was $6,000. They were going to be getting a knee surgery. If they were to take a Medicare Advantage plan, that surgery would have cost them $395. So looking at situations like that. Tony talked a little bit about health savings accounts. So we do work with health savings accounts, especially when it comes to Medicare. We want to make sure that both you and the employee are going to be compliant. So what we'll do is if someone is going to stay on your group plan, we will take a look at making sure that your HSA eligible plan is actually creditable coverage for drugs. A lot of times you might not know that your plan, even though it has coverage for prescriptions, it's not creditable according to Medicare. So we'll take a look and do an analysis there, make sure that if it is not, we look at a drug plan or look at senior care, things to kind of avoid any sort of late enrollment penalty. Make sure that people are not on Medicare A or B. Sometimes employees will take just Medicare A because it doesn't cost them anything where Medicare B has a premium. If you're going to continue to contribute to your health savings account, I know I saw a lot of people's hands go up with the health savings account when Tony asked that earlier. Make sure that your employees are not on Medicare Part A if they're still continuing to contribute to that. We will look at making sure that they need to take Medicare A and B. So if you have fewer than 20 employees, your employees have to take Medicare A and B. If either the employee or their spouse is disabled, then that number goes up to 100. And we have discovered a lot of times that people didn't know those rules, so they weren't taking them, staying on their group plan. Or if you are under 20 employees, because they have to pay for Medicare Part B anyways, it makes sense for them to come off of the group plan. We also work with business owners. You know, if you were considering selling your business, you're going to start taking Medicare. You might find that if you're a higher income earner, you might have an increased premium for Medicare Part B. Medicare Part B, the base cost of that is $170.10 per month. But if your income is above the limits listed here, it's going to just keep going up. And knowing if you have a qualifying event to bring that premium back down, that's something that we can kind of advise you on. I actually personally helped a couple of mine save $23,000 in Medicare premiums over the next 3 years because they sold their business and they were going to have to pay that increased premium, and we worked together and got that down for them. We also do have all of the forms. So for HR people, we do hang on to the Medicare Part B applications. We hang on to the, you might know the term CMS L564, so the verification. So if you have someone that's going to be retiring after 65 and they have to verify they had coverage, we hang on to all of that to kind of take a little bit of that pressure off of the employee having to go back and forth. And a lot of times what we'll do is we'll actually just communicate with the HR department, get that form from them and send it into Social Security to kind of ease that whole process, because it's so much paperwork when employees are looking at retiring. Something that we can offer for you, for your businesses, for your employers, we can come in and actually do a workshop. We do advise that you start kind of touching base with your employees about a year before they turn 65, whether they're going to be retiring or not, just so then they can kind of learn what's coming. So we can come in and we can do a lunch and learn, we do Zoom workshops all the time, and just kind of go over what these options are. We'll tailor our recommendations to the individuals. You know, if you guys are an HSA company, we can offer, if they're not 65, HSA plans on the individual market, kind of coordinate with you kind of the, we'll take it from here's area for the health insurance. All right, so I will get off the stage and get us a little bit closer to lunch.
Awesome. Yeah, so she's got a great team to help your employees. There's no cost for her to come in, do those seminars, those trainings, any of that stuff. They have saved a lot of money for clients that have had employees that have been on the plan that were able to take them off. And it's one thing I want to make note is you cannot force your employees to come off your plan and go onto Medicare. It's a delicate situation. You cannot force that. So the big thing is that Medicare analysis, like Bree said, to give them the options, and 85% of the time they end up coming off if they're educated. All right, our next speaker, and right one before lunch, Brian Goodman. Brian Goodman is an attorney and member of the Labor and Employment School Law and Municipal teams at Boardman Clark LLP. Brian assists employers on a wide range of legal issues, including navigating the COVID-19 pandemic, employee separations, employee leaves of absences and accommodations, and discrimination and respectful workplace issues. He graduated from the University of Wisconsin Law School, magna cum laude, and was elected to the Order of the Coif. Brian is a former member of the Greater Madison Area SHRM Board of Directors and has enjoyed speaking at several 5G benefits events over the past few years, including the Tuesdays at 2 webinar series. Brian is going to bring some legal updates. Please welcome Brian Goodman.
All right, thank you everyone for having me. I promise that your time right before lunch will be well served. I'm gonna hit you with the high points today. I'm not gonna preach at you like some lawyers that are just gonna, repeat the facts of the law. I come from an education background, and my hope is that in the few minutes we have, you have some concrete takeaways on some very tricky legal issues, so that you at a bare minimum know where the traps are. I get a lot of calls from new clients who call me after they've made a mistake. And I highly encourage, and I've tried to develop a practice that is largely get out ahead of those traps, call before you step into the trap, so much cheaper and easier to fix. So, with that in mind, let's start with arrest and conviction record discrimination. This is an area of the law where we've had a lot of changes in just a few short weeks. It starts with the Wisconsin Supreme Court that issued a case that really clarified a fundamental aspect of arrest and conviction record discrimination. But here's the basic law, right? It begins with, don't use someone's arrest and conviction records as part of the hiring process, unless an exception applies. But start with that. We're so used to seeing background checks and doing that as part of the process. But you should have the mentality of, I can't use any of this unless I meet an exception. So let's talk about those exceptions. One, you can use someone's conviction records. That means that they have actually pled guilty or been sentenced to a crime against them if the circumstances of their conviction substantially relate to the particular job you are hiring them for. And that substantial relationship test is huge, and it is complicated, and it is individualized based on what the employee is going to do and what the conviction actually was. You can also use the substantial relationship test with very specific kind of arrest records known as pending charges. A pending charge means that it has been filed in court by a district attorney and they will be standing trial or pleading or something. But it is not just any old arrest record, right? You can't use an arrest record. You hear that someone was arrested for drunk driving over the weekend, you can't use that record, that article from the newspaper until or unless charges are filed against the employee. And even then, if it's your current employee, you cannot fire over arrest records. You can refuse to hire if it's an applicant, and you can suspend without pay, but you cannot fire for pending charges. Instead, when you're dealing with pending charges or any kind of arrest record, if you want to do anything other than potentially do the substantial relationship test, and if it applies, suspend, what you can do is an independent investigation of the conduct that led to the arrest. Here's how that looks like. Call the employee in. You're there. Someone else is with you, of course, always have a witness. And you tell the employee, I heard that you got into a fight on Friday at a bar and you got hauled off in a police car. Did that happen? The employee then has a choice. They can lie, in which case you're going to fire them when you find out that they lied during an investigation. 2, they can tell the truth, and then they've admitted to conduct and you can decide, is this consistent with our values, consistent with our policies? Is this the kind of conduct we would allow our employee to engage in? If you don't agree with that, then you can fire. Not based on the arrest record, based on the admission to the conduct. The other option, of course, is the employee says, I'm taking the 5th. If you are not a government, they cannot take the 5th. If you are a government, they still can't take the 5th if you give them a garrity warning. So this is a lose-lose situation for the employee, and it is an unfortunate situation. But I'm speaking to a lot of employers right now, and I think this, while you have to approach these meetings carefully, they do give you some flexibility. And if they want to deny, you have the option of what you're going to do next. But a lot of times, if confronted and explained that if you're not truthful during this investigation, they'll face termination, they will explain what they did. At that point, you don't have to fire. It's just an option, potentially. Okay, so we've kind of gone through those options, but I've avoided going into much detail on the substantial relationship test. That works really well for conviction records, and it can work for pending charges. Especially if you're looking at, say, a background check and you're going to consider hiring a new employee. And you just don't quite know what you want to do with this information that you've received. Okay, it says they got a DUI in college, right? And I'm hiring them, and they're not going to drive a vehicle for us at all. Is there going to be a substantial relationship test? Is there going to be a substantial relationship there? Probably not. But that would mean you can't use that conviction against them. So what is that substantial relationship test? We've got to understand it. And basically, what it means is that, we talked about that, you have to determine if the circumstances surrounding the conviction relate to the job duties. So you look at the job duties and you look at the elements of the crime and relevant circumstances related to that crime. And this is a new expanded approach. It used to be, like I'm talking 2 months ago, we'd have to look at the elements of the crime and the job duties and decide, substantial relationship, yes or no. That's all we'd be able to do. Very restrictive. Well, the Supreme Court, Wisconsin Supreme Court, just issued a 4-3 decision in Cree versus LERC. And LERC is a government agency that handles all appeals related to arrest and conviction record. And so what happened, there was an initial adjudication, then LERC took it, they flipped, changed their mind. Then it went to the circuit court, they flipped their mind again. Then it went to the Court of Appeals, guess what? Another switch in the law. And finally, the Wisconsin Supreme Court said, enough! We shall tell you what the law says. And as lawyers and as employers, we always like that certainty. And so they issued a ruling that was really quite broad and helpful for employers. Here's the facts of the case. It's important to understand what we're talking about here. Derek Palmer applied for a position as an application specialist with Cree. His job duties would have involved traveling to customers' facilities for consultations, working collaboratively with customers and coworkers, and occasionally he'd have to travel with overnight stays in hotels. He had to work independently without supervision, and he would have been working at large facilities where there was a lot of what you might call dark spots on the right? Wouldn't be spotted by a camera. Now you're probably all going, well, why is all that relevant? Well, they made a contingent offer to him and said, we're going to hire you assuming that your background check comes out. Well, his background check did not come out clean. In fact, it came out with some very, very disturbing convictions. He had been convicted in 2013 of 8 violent crimes against his then girlfriend. I'm not even going to go into the details, they're on the slide, they're bad. They're the kind of thing where you wouldn't want this person necessarily to work for you. But the question was whether the law required them to hire him. Were these domestic offenses related to his job that was, at its essence, designing lighting fixtures, right? Not what you would think of as a strong interpersonal kind of job. A lot of it was at a computer, but there were some times where he wouldn't be. Well, the Wisconsin Supreme Court reiterated the basics of that substantial relationship test, which is, would giving him that job have presented opportunities for him to re-offend in the workplace? And that's when they started to take a broader look at everything. Because it used to be that domestic crimes were looked at very differently under the substantial relationship test. And it was very hard, no matter how severe the domestic abuse or even someone's own children, it could be hard to use that against them in a job that wasn't related to working with kids, working with individually with vulnerable populations. So a lot of employers, like the Cree, who was the employer in this case, said, you know what? We can't allow this employee to work for us. We're gonna fight this. And they took it all the way to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And they got a favorable ruling. And so the court threw out that distinction and said, no, it doesn't matter if it's domestic or not domestic. That's not what we're looking at. Look at what happened. Look at the character traits that the crime evinced. And what they show were a propensity for exerting control and dominance, which could lead Palmer to re-offend through professional relationships with customers and coworkers. And no more narrow views. Look at it broadly. And note that lack of regular supervision, overnight stays, lack of security cameras, plenty of opportunity for this applicant to re-offend if he was hired. In addition to those character traits, the court says, now let's look at the seriousness of the offense, the number of offenses, how recent the conviction is, and whether there is a pattern of behavior. Because let's face it, someone who has a single conviction 20 years ago is probably less likely to re-offend than someone who has a conviction every few years. It shows a pattern. And as showing a pattern allows you as an employer to say, no, that is more likely to be substantially related to our job. Now all of a sudden we can look at all these things and not just look at what were the crimes for which he pled guilty to. And by the way, if you watch enough TV, you may understand that a lot of times it's plea bargaining, right? They don't go to trial, they get someone to agree to lesser charges. So technically, they could have been charged with a felony. Maybe they pled down to a misdemeanor, and you're stuck with this misdemeanor trying to apply this test to a horrendous situation. You don't have to do that anymore. Under this Cree test, you can look at the broader scope of what's going on with this applicant and take action if appropriate. In this case, the employer was found not to be violating the state law and was allowed not to hire this individual. This is a case-by-case analysis. Broadening all the things you can look at made it better for employers, but also made it harder to analyze because now there's so much in play. And this is very new, so it's not like we have a lot to go on besides this case. This is where lawyers can really help you and partner with you in your specific situation to help set you up for the best defense going forward should you want to pull the trigger and say, you know what, I'm not hiring that person. And we can at least assess your legal risk in that situation. Or after consulting with a lawyer, maybe the answer is, you know what, we are going to hire that person, but we've got to just put a little bit of structure in place to make sure that the rest of our employees are safe And these are hard calls. These are challenging situations. As you saw, every single court and agency that looked at this case came to a different answer. So what are we supposed to do? And that's where, that's what lawyers do. We assess this, and we assess your case, and we compare it, and help you come to the best situation possible for your business. So that's one major trend in the law. The other major trend in the law is accommodations, accommodations, accommodations. Everyone loves to say the word accommodation these days. I need you to accommodate me, I need to pick up my kids. I need you to accommodate me, I can't work on Fridays in the summer for some reason. Or Monday after the Packer game, perhaps. Look, everyone throws out the accommodation word, right? You don't have to grant accommodations to everyone who uses the accommodation word. What do you need to grant accommodations for? Disabilities and very minor religious accommodation requests. That's about it. And I say minor because the standard for religious accommodations is very low. Like if someone needs to wear a religious head covering and you have a policy that says no head coverings, unless they're working in a machine press where it could be dangerous, you're granting that accommodation for religion, right? And we've seen people try to expand, broaden what amount of religious accommodations need to be granted. And generally speaking, the courts and the government agencies have said religious accommodations is a very low threshold for employers. Use some common sense, be flexible. Scheduling is another issue we run into reasonable accommodations. Try to work through those scheduling differences if you can. But disability is where it gets complicated because the law requires you to do more. And what we're seeing, even coming out of COVID, we had a lot of requests for accommodations during COVID because people were scared about coming to work and based on their health conditions. Now, people are largely getting back to work, and they now kind of have this sort of empowered feeling about their rights. They understood them for the first time and asserted them for the first time during the pandemic, and now they like it, and they're going to keep asserting them. And so what we're finding is more education of employees is leading to more of their assertion of their rights, and employers going, I've never had to deal with one of these before. Or I've had to deal with like one or two, and we were just pretty flexible. But now we can't just bend over and be flexible on every single request because it's too much. Please help. Happy to help. But that's the issue that I'm seeing. Remote work is a big one. If they need it because of their disability, that's one thing. But you don't get remote work just because you want it or it would be better for you. You might give it to them anyway because you need employees. But understand that the moment you give a benefit to someone who's not legally entitled to it, when someone comes along that asks for it because of a disability, good luck saying no. Because you've set that precedent. And you'll never be able to defend a case where, well, they were able to, but not this disabled person who needed it. Now, you can distinguish based on job duties, right? If the person you let work from home doesn't need to be in the office, and this other person does, that's a very different analysis. But if they're the same employees, very comparable employees working comparable jobs, that is a hard argument to make. We also are seeing requests regarding vaccination and masking requirements. A lot of employers are going away from those, but those who have had it, it continues to be an ongoing issue. Again, they have a new, employees have a new level of recognition and education, or miseducation, on their rights to accommodation. You're seeing people use the words accommodation more, and they just don't understand, well, what's your medical condition? Or they're not going to understand it. You're going to say, I need you to provide me some documentation related to your medical condition so I can review what you're asking. And then they're like, HIPAA. Well, first of all, you're spelling that wrong. And and second of all, that's not what this is about. You've put your medical condition at issue by asking us to accommodate you. Therefore, we can ask these questions. And if you don't want to provide them to us, that's your right. That's fine. But also no to your accommodation request because we couldn't verify it. The HIPAA thing gets me every time. All right. So here's one exception, one place where you can draw the line and say, I'm not doing this for my employees. And that's if the accommodation would pose a direct threat. Well, what is a direct threat? There are 4 factors you got to look at. the duration of the risk, the nature and severity of the potential harm, the likelihood of the potential harm occurring, and the imminence of potential harm. It's a pretty high threshold. Additionally, you have to go through the interactive process with the employee. Look at what they're asking for, look at their medical condition, see what accommodation might work. If there's no reasonable accommodation that can keep the workplace safe with this employee's condition, then you might have a direct threat. But if you haven't explored the accommodations yet, you cannot successfully raise the direct threat defense. So you gotta go through the process. Now, if the harm is imminent and obvious, you can take immediate action. I urge you to consult with legal counsel first, because you are essentially taking an action based on someone's medical condition, and that is generally a high-risk proposition. But it can be done. This is where my last bullet point is. Generalized suspicion of risk is not going to be enough. Just because you think it's going to be a problem doesn't mean you can rely on that, and that can, again, create great legal risk. It's a case against U.S. Steel, big company, and the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals, and that's our Circuit Court of Appeals, it's a federal court that governs Wisconsin, issued a ruling that's really helpful about this direct threat test. Well, U.S. Steel makes steel. This employee had to operate heavy machinery, work in close contact with molten metal, risk of burn injuries, falls, being struck equipment. That sounds like a hard job. They should be a lawyer. All we do is speak. Everyone loves a lawyer joke before lunch. Okay, so this is real hard work. And this employee had an uncontrolled seizure disorder. Very dangerous if he has a seizure episode while pouring a vat of molten metal. No doubt. Well, he asks for some job restrictions, right? He didn't use the accommodation word. He's like, I need some accommodations because of my seizure disorder. So the employer did what employers do, asked for more information, and found out, actually, he has an uncontrolled seizure disorder because he refuses to take the medicine his doctor has prescribed. And if he took that medicine, it would likely be under control and he could work safely. But they learned he's not taking it, which means he could be prone to a seizure essentially at any moment. That was a crucial fact that the employer learned by going through the proper process. And when they learned that, they looked at that and they go, no, because he's not taking his medicine, the risk is indefinite and ongoing, and you do not have to accommodate that. If he took his medicine, we'd have a much harder case for the employer. But that wasn't the case in front of the court. Here are some common mistakes that can be made in disability accommodation situations. Even if it will not cause a direct threat, accommodations do not need to be provided if they will cause undue hardship. Now, a lot of people are like, woohoo, hardship. This was hard for me. And it's higher than that. It means significant difficulty or expense. And that tends to be a difficult standard to meet. It requires a thoughtful, realistic assessment of the accommodation and your business, right? Walmart has the money to do a lot of accommodating before it's going to meet this test. So, on the other hand, if you're a small business with only a few employees, you can raise the undue hardship test earlier. But it's still probably higher than you think it is, if that's the way that I can impose upon it to you. It's not as easy as that'll never work. You want to document why it won't work. You'll want to propose other options that will work. The key is don't stop talking. Make the employee say, none of this is going to work for me, I'm done trying. Make them quit the process. Don't quit the process yourself. And by the way, don't make it so that they want to quit either, right? You be the flexible one. Let them be the inflexible one. That's a much easier case to win. We did everything we could, Your Honor. This person would not accept it, and eventually she just stopped talking to us. Another common mistake that we see, simply granting accommodation without following the process. That sets your precedent, and then you can't successfully deny the accommodation. Remote work is the obvious one. Now, if you want to roll back remote work from everyone at the same time, that's fine. And you still may get the request to accommodate that they're like, I don't want to come back to work, I have a disability. You may still have to consider it for those individuals. They may get that accommodation. But at least if everyone else is coming back, you've got a much stronger argument for why that person has to come back too. Don't make assumptions based on stereotypes, things you've read in the paper. Don't play doctor. You're not a doctor, and even if you are a doctor, you know that that's not your patient, and you wouldn't play doctor with them either. So you want to take the doctor's information and work with that, and pose critical questions to the doctor if you need to. Work with legal counsel to draft what I like to affectionately call Dear Doctor letters. And by the third one I'm writing, Dear Doctor, please answer the question. But that's true. Doctors like to be fairly vague, and we need to be very, very precise. And so working with legal counsel to get a well-drafted answer that gets to the heart of the issue is really important. And again, if you get a doctor's documentation that's vague, you need to follow up with that, right? You can't just assume it's accurate, and you can't just ignore it. You've got to lock it down. What are they actually asking for? How long are they asking for leave for? Is there a specific time period that they're asking for? If this is just a general request for indefinite leave, you can say no to that. If they ask for 2 months of leave because of a disability, that's a much harder combination to say no to. But you got to lock the doctor down into saying it, because doctors don't like to be locked down. And finally, more than ever, it's critical that your HR team handles accommodation requests consistently and in compliance with the legal requirements. Employees are watching you now. Clear and accurate communication. Assume every email is Exhibit 1, followed by Exhibit 2, right? Right for the judge in these cases. This case is a really interesting case, but the basics are, if you've seen lawyers speak before, a lot of times we'll be like, look, when the person goes out on FMLA, now is not the time to say you're doing a bad job and you're fired, right? That's bad timing, and yet it's not an uncommon situation. This case proves you can terminate someone very close to when they take FMLA leave and come back from FMLA leave. The key here was that they had proof of bad performance prior to the leave. They come back from the leave. The federal government catches this loan writer and says, whoa, 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 everything this person has done is wrong. And they have 20 years experience and should know better. And so the federal government's now auditing and finding the company. The employee comes back to work and they're like, hold on, we're gonna take away all your duties while we finish an investigation. And they finish the investigation 2 days after she comes back from leave, and they fire her based on the performance issue. They won. Admittedly, it had to go to trial court and then to the Court of Appeals, but they won because they had their documentation. They had a lot of good facts on their side. This was high risk. I am sure their legal counsel said, you might get sued, but you might be able to win if you really want to take this to the mat. And in this case, the errors were really bad and cost them a lot of money when the federal government started looking at the underwriting. Harassment remains a continuous issue. I could talk about it all day. I have talked about it all day. But I just want to alert you to a few things. One is that when you're bringing a discrimination claim, when it is 2 employees, right, that are engaged in discrimination, not a supervisor, your obligation is to respond in a way that's reasonably likely to get the harassment to stop. So it doesn't mean you have to fire one of the 2 employees, but maybe you reassign them to a different space, or maybe you'd give them some coaching. If it's a supervisor that is harassing a subordinate, that's already really, really, really bad, because you can't defend that claim under state law. If a supervisor meets the standard for harassment of a subordinate, you automatically are liable as an employer. So you need to tell your supervisors that they are under a microscope as far as the law is concerned. And who is a supervisor? There is a 7-pronged test that will determine who's a supervisor and who's not. Here's a general impression. If you think they might be a supervisor, treat them like one. Make sure they understand that they'll be under a microscope with respect to harassment. That's not just sexual harassment. It's racial harassment and religious harassment and any other kind of protected class you can think of. So make sure your people understand that, especially your newer managers who have never been managers before. They don't understand that their former coworker is now their employee, and they will create liability if they go out drinking and start trash talking each other and sending dirty emails to each other. It's a problem waiting to happen. And sometimes you just need to be the person to say, we got to get this under control. We got to look at this. This case, this Howard versus Cook County case, is all about ambient harassment. The idea was these employees were all getting harassed by jail inmates. And the county didn't step in to protect them from all the dirty comments that were going on all around them from prisoners. Well, they tried to bring this as a class action. Class actions do not work well with harassment because it's different. The facts are different for each person. That's what the court said here. We're not dealing with this on a class action basis. Give me individual facts. Well, when you go on the individual facts, it's a lot harder to prove the case, and I believe that probably settled or went away once it could no longer go as a class action. Tony asked me to briefly touch on some important employee documents, and I'm going to do that. I-9s, you all need to do your employment verifications. Keep them in a separate file for all I-9s. Keep them alphabetical. That way, if you get an I-9 audit, you got them all together, and it's easy enough to pull. If you want to keep your tax and benefit forms in probably the personnel file. Proof of education, training, licensure, certification. You'll want to keep their application. Because especially the part where they affirm that everything they've put on that statement is accurate. Because sometimes it's 5 years down the line and you find out that person has no degree and they lied to you. It's going to be really good to have that application where they lied to you and be able to say, yes, this is why you're fired. You lied to us and here's the proof. Offers of employment and documentation of any wage increases are important. Background check consent forms are really important, especially if you're using a vendor. If you're using a vendor to do your background checks, you need to make sure your vendor and you are complying with the Fair Credit Reporting Act. By the way, it's not your vendor's responsibility to make sure your vendor's doing it correctly. That's your responsibility. You need to make sure you know when your vendors are sending out the documents, how they're sending them out, so that you can move forward in confidence with your vendor. But ultimately, the liability is on you and not your vendor. FMLA forms and doctor's notes. That's going to be a separate personnel file that's more confidential than the regular personnel file. Something that basically HR is the only person who should be looking at those. You're going to want documentation of absences, tardies, and misconduct. It should all be in that file. You want performance evaluations and relevant informal evaluation notes. This is called papering up the file. And it's so much better if you paper up the file as a general practice than if you're papering up the file 2 weeks before you decide you're going to get rid of someone. One of them has a lot more credibility than the other. And if someone makes a harassment complaint, you want to document your response to that harassment complaint. Make sure that's in the file. So that if someone goes, what'd you do about it? You know the answer. Separation agreements, if you let someone go, keep the record because they could file a lawsuit 300 days later and they go, I thought we weren't going to sue. I thought that's why I paid him off. Well, separation agreement, you're going to need it to submit in the court if someone does try to challenge their separation, which does happen from time to time. So make sure you keep them. Minimum standard, retain all this stuff for at least a year, but a much better practice, because there's so many exceptions, is to keep these documents till likely 1 year after termination of employment, assuming no lawsuit is filed. If a lawsuit is filed within that year, then you keep everything until the lawsuit is resolved. Obviously, longer is not necessarily a bad thing, but I just want people to be aware that's the minimum practice for this retention. All right, I know I'm out of time and keeping you from lunch, so I do thank you for your time, and bring Tony back up here to give you your next instructions, which will probably be lunch related. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Brian. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started for our second half. How was lunch? Good lunch. Very good lunch. Great venue out there, huh? All right, so this afternoon we're really going to get more on even more on the employee side, trying to help you guys give some tips to keep employees, as well as just you're not in this alone. Not everyone has, nobody's perfect here, right? Nobody here is doing everything perfect. Everyone runs their business different. You're all doing it different, but there's things that we could sprinkle in to make it better. And that's what we're going to try to do on the HR side this afternoon. Our first speaker is Lisa Powers. Lisa Powers is president of Reshaping HR and VP of Pamco Properties Executive Office Suites. Reshaping HR is a consulting firm for talent acquisitions, facilitating monthly HR roundtables, and conducting deep dives to reduce turnover. She also acts as the contract HR manager for an Appleton manufacturing company. Lisa was the previous owner of Career Options, staffing and recruiting firm for 25 years. She has a Bachelor's of Science in Education and a PHR certification. She has been married to her husband Dan, a photojournalist, for 25 years, and has been his assistant on the field at Lambeau during even 2 Packer games. She says it's great to be back at Lambeau today. Please welcome Lisa Powers. Just the right one.
Good afternoon. What a fabulous group here today. Nice to be here and be back at Lambeau. So today is a very tight squeeze in time. It's probably about 20 minutes, so I am going to go quickly and efficiently to talk a little bit about conducting deep dives for your organization. I will be going quickly, but hopefully you will be finding some nuggets to take along with you today. So many people are already tired of the Great Recession era, and this could be due to mass exodus, high turnover, just a lot of different areas where now all of a sudden you're doing wage comparison and wage wars. So that's creating a lot of upheaval, it's creating a lot of problems for companies in general. Knowing that, people are looking at doing some deep dives. There's the mic. For the deep dives, a lot of people are looking at them for a variety of different reasons. So the first reason is reducing turnover. A lot of people think they know what the reasoning is for employees leaving, but conducting a deep dive really allows for you to find out the true reasons why people are leaving. Identifying heartburn issues for employees. What challenges have you not efficiently addressed? The next one is increasing employee engagement and trust. Oftentimes when there's changes in leadership, changes in mergers or buyouts or just changes with the company in general, employees start to have a little bit of less faith or trust in the management. You also want to evaluate the culture. When you evaluate the culture, you might be able to determine where some bitterness or some frustration or, unfortunately, maybe where some hostility is coming from. And then lastly, increase the recruiting return on investment. So there are things to consider before doing a deep dive into an organization. The first one is, what is a deep dive? So it's an exhaustive investigation, study or analysis in order to determine the company's turnover and the reasoning. This involves quite a few factors: interviewing employees, summarizing data, and developing key initiatives to stop the bleeding and increase retention. Additional things to consider is leadership on board. You really need to have all of the leadership team on board if you're considering doing a deep dive. The reasoning is if only half of the leadership team is involved and on board, the report's going to end up just sitting in a file. Nothing's going to be developed. Employees are going to have more resentment, more bitterness after they've laid out their souls and nothing has been done. So if you don't have all the leadership team on board, I would wait until either that happens or you make some internal changes. Another consideration is who's actually going to implement the deep dive. I've seen different ways of doing this. Some have the internal HR department do this. Some create an internal project team. And then others outsource to a third party. It's important to ask, though, where employees are going to feel most comfortable opening up. You want them to bare their souls. Sometimes you hear a little more information than you want to, but you want them to bare their souls so you can understand where these frustrations are coming from. But if they feel that they will not be heard or things won't be kept confidential, that maybe there's going to be retaliation or they could lose their position, they're going to give what I call our beige answers, just very general. And for most leadership team, you can come up with your beige responses yourself. You really want to kind of peel back the onion. Evaluate the time needed for the full implementation. This is time consuming. It's not for the meek and it's not for the mild. Obviously, for a small organization, you can kind of hone it in a little more. If you're a larger organization, your timeline is going to be spread. Determine questions, even the uncomfortable ones. I call these some of the heartburn issues. This is where you want the leadership buy-in because sometimes we're not going to hear all the answers that we want. Sometimes there's personal ownership that we all need to understand. And you have to be able to ask the uncomfortable questions to get to the answers. And I highlighted this a little bit, but it's really important that you keep the employee names confidential. If they are not comfortable or if they're not confident that you will keep the names confidential, They're not going to open their hearts and their souls, but more importantly, if the name starts to come out later, you're going to ruin everything you've worked up to this point, and that trust is going to be minimized hugely. So people often ask me, well, what types of questions can we ask during a one-on-one? So I always encourage companies to interview, if possible, all the employees. Now that's easier said than done if you have 50 employees or less. If you have large organizations, you might want to take a sample of each department. But once you start coming up with questions, you want to keep diving deeper to get more to the heart of it. So some questions that you can ask is, what do you like about your current role and responsibilities? This one I think is important. Do you personally feel proud of what you do, and why? And if a lot of your employees do, this is a great marketing tool to engage new employees. How would you describe the culture? It's interesting from doing this for 25 years when I talk to different employees regarding culture and so forth, you get different responses. When you're doing a deep dive, everybody might fall under one category, or they might separate it, saying, well, actually, the service department has a culture like this. The production, oh, they've got a completely different culture. Because eventually you want to be able to work on the culture as an entire organization, but a lot of companies have split cultures. This is one of your biggest one. What are some key challenges and frustrations? And this can be in any area, safety, equipment, personnel. But again, you have to have a person who is empathetic, who is sympathetic, but can move the process along, because you want them to be able to ask for specific examples. If they just say they're not happy with safety, and that's what you report on, that's not giving any clear indication. What are some of their, is it about the new equipment that they're hiring? Is it that the building is so old that, that safety's become a major issue? Is that the leadership team doesn't even care about it? How do you feel about your pay? So that's one way, but I like the other way, is do you feel you are paid fairly for what you do? That allows them to take some ownership, because if you ask the first question, they're all going to say, yes, I think I should be paid more. The second one, I think, really gets to the core of the company, the values, and the pay structure. Can you offer any suggestions regarding benefits? What you think is important, maybe what the company has been doing it for history, has been focused on key areas. When you start to have more turnover and new blood in, their idea of what's great for benefits may be different, so you might need to review that. This is one of the reasons why you want to keep things confidential. A great question, in my opinion, is what are 2 to 3 reasons that prompt you to start looking for another job, and are you currently doing so? This allows you to figure out how many staff are kind of halfway out the door, fully out the door, but it also allows you for some of your key employees, some of your star employees, to let you know what you're doing well, but what would have to change for them to start looking and going elsewhere, so you can be more proactive. On a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable would you be recommending a friend? How do you feel about employee training? In the 25 years of doing recruiting, onboarding, and some of the feedback that I get from employees is, you mean there is any training? I don't know who to go to. Nobody's available. The tenured staff are so frustrated with the turnover that they don't even want to train anymore. I don't have a resource. So you want to be able to gauge that. Here's one of the uncomfortable questions. Do you feel your supervisor is a good leader for your team, and why? The end result here is if you have a leader or a supervisor that is causing people to leave, I'm not saying that your first goal is to terminate them. It might be doing some management training, it might be doing some connecting them with a mentor, sending them for additional coaching. But we want to catch it before it continues to help lead the organization. So now that you've interviewed all the employees, you're going to have all this stuff, all this data, and it's piles of it, and you don't know really what to do with it. So what I wanted to do is kind of give some examples in case you would like to do a deep dive in-house, how to help organize. This part is really important. I think you should start with what are the good things happening in the organization. And there should be some. And some of these areas then don't change. Don't change something that's working. What I did is I gave some, I think it's important to give some data or some stats to help you understand and back up your points. So some of the stats that I'm offering today are from deep dives that I've done for other companies and organizations. Others are just samples. But once you start accumulating all of this, an example might be 84% personally feel proud of what they do. Approximately 95% of employees stated their direct supervisor is a good leader. So give the accolades, be the cheerleader, and really focus on the things that have been doing, or things that are going well. Other similar areas in organizations that you're going to be looking at are the pay and benefits. For one of my clients, one of the summaries was I had to let them know that 39% did not feel that they were paid fairly. 73% might be unhappy with the percent that you are matching with the 401k. The new employee training, continued training, this typically is something that pops up along the way for your deep dives. It might be that it's the third biggest concern with employees. There's just a huge lack of training in all areas. One other area is whether they feel respected, valued, kind of goes along with the culture. For one of my clients, this is literally what I let them know, is that on a scale of 1 to 10, 48% of the employees rated feeling valued as a 3 or a 4. Now that did coincide with some of the culture remarks that they had, some other areas, but that was huge in order to decide, okay, are we going to use this as one of our initiatives? Those are general areas, but then as you look at your deep dive internally, you're going to have specific key frustrations for your company as a whole. And they are different for every organization. Some are some heartburn issues that it's 82% of it, and everybody feels this way. But you want to keep peeling things back to find out what are the things that are the most problematic, what are the things you can change, what are the things that maybe aren't going to be on your calendar. For example, it could be the relationship with management is the #1 concern. Or the building, that might be #2 because people are frustrated that there's no space, that everybody's overcrowded, safety's been an issue. Culture. This could be something where 92% feel that it's a positive, rewarding, motivating, great culture. Maybe it goes along with feeling valued and respectful, so maybe there's concerns on that. Suggestions, ideas that are coming from employees. When you open this up, it's really amazing that a lot of employees will talk about their frustrations, but then they'll also say, I don't know why we don't just do it this way. Or, here's an idea, here's a suggestion. So in one of my roundtable, or one of the one-on-ones, a person was talking about the concern with the culture between two different departments. The service and the production departments had a long history of being frustrated with one another. There was bitterness and animosity. And what she suggested, why don't we just create a fun committee? Something where we can do things as an organization, pull everybody together. So my client then decided to initiate this, but then they also took it a step further and they said, let's give them a budget, let's give them some expectations, and they've been running this for 6 months and it's been amazing. Some of the things, they had a pumpkin carving contest, it cost barely anything. Some they're doing food trucks, some are cheap, some are nothing, some are more expensive. Another person suggested, they make these changes, leadership makes these changes, but they don't consult the people that are on the floor. We're the ones that are rolling up the sleeves, we're the ones working on the machines. When they buy the new machine, why don't they consult with us first? When they buy the new software, why don't they ask how it's going to correlate and work with all the departments? So once then you do your one-on-ones, those are your interviews, then you start to summarize all of your information. Now, whether it's a third party or your team, needs to come up with recommendations. There is no way that you're going to recommend every concern, every issue that pops up. So you're going to base things off of maybe severity or the number of people that responded, and you're going to come up with the recommendations. This is where then the leadership team as a group decides, okay, these are the initiatives we are going to focus on. And what are the next steps? So as you're starting to roll things out, there's a couple things that I recommend. One, follow up with your employees regarding what you have learned. It doesn't need to be secretive. You don't need to keep it confidential. You can have a short meeting summarizing some of the key information, letting them know that you're making changes, but also letting them know that you're honest, that you will not be able to make every change. That you are going to focus on those that are causing the most heartburn, that are best for the organization and employee retention. Here, as I mentioned, this is where you're going to be finalizing your key initiatives, the timeline. Because once you roll out these initiatives and you let the employees know this, they are going to expect results. They're going to be watching to see if you're just going to trail off and forget about the initiatives. I understand there is a lot that comes out of these deep dives. And it is impossible to roll out every initiative. Most HR management teams, most leaders, most owners, most employees are just burdened. They've got so much on their plate. So it's hard sometimes to focus and say, okay, yeah, that sounds great, but who's got the time to do all of this? So that's why I recommend starting small, maybe picking 3 initiatives for the first 3 months, maybe picking another 3 to 5 for the next 6 months, and then developing your plan for a year. Not everyone has the staff to oversee some of these, so if you're seeing some major heartburn issues, these are some ideas and resources that I can provide. I get no commission. This is just strictly from referrals to make your jobs easier. So there's an organization for 15 dots. They train your team to consistently select and hire the right personnel. So if your HR department is a little scattered in terms of some in this department are hiring, some in this department are, some here are hiring, and it's really kind of a free-for-all. But you don't necessarily have the time to put the entire package together. There is an investment, and it is a fairly large investment, but it would allow you to maybe get things rolling off the bat. Employee engagement. These are specific videos. So a lot of you have great, amazing videos on your site, and they talk about the product that you're doing. They talk about what you're selling or what you're manufacturing. But I encourage you to really look at it more closely and create videos where they can take pride and ownership in what they do. And explain that, because that is what's going to engage your new employees and your candidates who are applying. So all of these other things are also in your package here. Fox Valley Tech, if you are seeing that you're falling behind in your documentation, your checklists or processes, they actually do come on site for a lot of companies and will help you go through this. Follow up with your employees 3 months later, let them know what you're doing, and ask them, do a survey. How can we improve? And then lastly, as I wrap up my time here, be energized, engage the entire process. I promise you, you'll see the results if you continue to implement these changes, keep the employees informed, but you may not see small changes until 3 months, and in 6 months you're going to see more, and then as you continue through the year, you will continue. So that's my presentation. Thank you very much for having me be part. And if you have any questions, I will be at the social. I'd love to just connect with some of you and make a great rest of the day.
Thank you very much, Lisa. All right, so yeah, I mean, that's the deep dive. Actually, 5G is going through that with our employees over the next month. We just want to pick their brains, see what they're doing as well, what they're thinking, because there might be some obvious things that they're seeing that maybe we're not seeing. And we're not immune as an agency from what you guys are challenged with every single day as well. I mean, everyone in this room is challenged with many of the same things, just on maybe different scales. So let's go ahead and have our HR roundtable participants come on up. We have Lauren, Amy, and Ann. Set it to the side. Awesome. Yes. So we'll give this to Amy. All right. So it's a little different setup than what we've had the rest of the previous part of the day, but we're going to kind of tone it down a little bit and just have a little more conversation on what these companies are doing and how they're overcoming, like I said, some of the same things that maybe you're doing. We're going to ask a few questions and let each of them talk for about probably 30 seconds a minute on each question. And I'm excited because we have a range of people on this panel, Going from someone with really no HR experience initially that now leads a 300-person company as an HR manager, which a lot of people in this room have maybe haven't hired people, or maybe they're forced into HR roles that have never had an HR experience before. We have another person with 20 years of experience on the HR side in management, and then another one with actually that owns an HR consulting company. So it's the whole range that we're going to talk through some questions. So on my left here, we have Amy Seehafer. Amy is the Director of People for Packer Fastener and Packer Freight. Amy is a certified HR professional with 20 plus years of experience in HR, organizational development, and shared service operations. Her industry background is extremely diverse. Amy is a proud two-time UWGB grad where she received her bachelor's and master's. Amy's true passions are her family and diagnosing and solving complex organizational challenges and assisting others in achieving their potential. So this is Amy right here. In the middle, we have, we have Lauren Shelfeffer. Yes, okay, I got it. Yes. Lauren has been in Excel engineering down in Fond du Lac for almost 10 years after graduating with a marketing degree from UW-Madison. When she started at Excel, the CFO did everything, including the HR, and as the company grew, Lauren fell into the role of HR assistant without any HR experience. Lauren is now the HR manager for all of Excel Engineering, which now has grown to over 300 employees and was only 97 employees when she was first hired. Lauren is the only employee with Excel Engineering that has an HR role. Awesome, so thank you very much, Lauren, for being on the panel as well. And lastly, we have Ann Wetstein. Ann is the president of HR Consulting and has been with Human Resources Consulting LLC for 10 years. A majority of her role includes working with clients in both a strategic and tactical role, everything from interim on-site HR support, performance management, recruiting, employee relations, to day-to-day functions of HR. Ann works with 15 to 20 different companies per month in all different capacities and industries. Ann and her team basically act as HR departments for their clientele. So we have a great panel. So I'm going to just start out with Amy right here first on the first question that I have. And if you guys do have questions, we're going to talk through a little bit. We have a mic that you guys can also ask questions. But how are you attracting and retaining employees?
Well, attracting and retaining employees at Packer isn't nearly as complicated as we would sometimes think. In the area here, we get like 90+% of our people from referrals, so we work really hard to provide a novel work environment where it's fun to work at Packer, that we have a very defined culture, and we find that people attract people.
To kind of go off of that same idea, at Excel, when I started, there were 97 employees, and we've obviously seen a lot of fluctuations in the hiring market over the last few years. But what's really happened is we've struggled getting employees to stay in Fond du Lac. So being a little bit smaller town, we recruit at Michigan Tech, a smaller town as well, but a lot of schools in Milwaukee, Madison, even up in Green Bay. So getting students to come to Fond du Lac initially is kind of a struggle. And it's one thing as a new hire right out of college to say, yes, I'm accepting a job in Fond du Lac. But on the retention side, keeping them in Fond du Lac has kind of been a little bit of a roadblock for us. So in that regard, what we've really tried to do is up our referral game for current employees also. They are our biggest advocates. They are our biggest assets. And the more we can give to them, to give them resources to send out, why Excel? Why do we want you to come work here? What is cool about Excel? What do we love about Excel? We've recently used our marketing department to put together a lot of different videos, recruitment tools that we can utilize at the schools, and especially for our employees to really use that as a referral. So we went from a $1,000 employee referral bonus to $5,000, and I have not hired a single person through a recruiter this year, which is amazing. It's mostly been through employee referrals, so just something to consider on that end.
Okay, well, I'm third, so I feel like I'm going to repeat a little bit, but we have. So our clients are a little bit different, right? We deal with anywhere from 30 to 45 different customers, industries, level, number of employees on any given month. So with us, all we try to look for is what is their culture? What are the things that stand out about them, right? That's a little bit different. Everyone's got benefits. Everyone's got typically holiday, PTO, things like that. So how are you being competitive and what changes with that, right? Whether it's flexibility that you can adjust, or your people simply want more PTO, right? If you can't have it in the budget to do raises or things like that, what are the things that are valued by pulse surveys, finding out those types of things in terms of retaining people, as well as the referral bonus, definitely putting some more zeros on the end of that helped, as well as a lot of just like low cost, no cost things, right? A thank you email with your boss's boss, or your employee's boss copied in, or gas cards, or like you said, we talked a little bit, I know, about doing like the fun committee type things. So, things like that. We've had people do like turkey hunts, right? Like you hide a turkey and whoever wins it is gonna get money, and then you fight over it. So I mean, our clients have done a little bit of everything, but it's really cool to see. So we try to help them think of some of those things of what everybody's putting up those same types of job ads, right? And looking kind of for accounting or HR or whatever it might be. So how do you market that is different than just, here's your bullet pointed job, here's the benefits we have. What are you going to market to make them, really want to leave where they're at? Those are the people that you're looking for now, not the barrel of employees that aren't working at the moment.
That was great. Let's have you bring it back this way. What is the number one thing employees will say of why they like working for your company?
Okay, so again, we, with the amount of companies that we work with, I think a lot of it right now is the flexibility in the culture. So our clients, it's really great, since we work with a lot of small to mid-sized businesses that obviously don't have, their own HR person because they're just not at that size. You have a lot more flexibility of kind of what they want to do with some of those smaller groups of, the parties and the food trucks and the, a lot of the ESOPs. We just have a lot of different things that these employees are staying at some of these smaller companies. I think some people are just transitioning out of some of the larger companies for that reason too. So again, we have a little bit different demographic that we go through, but yeah, it's kind of those little things.
Money. I do believe that is the one thing they will say, but I was talking with our CFO is here as well. We were talking on the way up, and everyone has a threshold of how much money they can get paid, and it makes it worth it with all of the other BS that goes with it, right? So if you feel valued to a degree, but your supervisor micromanages everything you do, you can get paid an extra $10,000 a year, and they might not want to stay. So Excel is employee owned, and we've really focused on that kind of aspect of our whole working relationship. So employee ownership, true employee ownership, where everyone's getting profit sharing checks quarterly throughout the year, has been the number one driving force for our company and why people want to stay. Because of that employee ownership, it is money, but additionally, that's just a fancy way of saying that we're one big team. It's a family mentality because we hold everybody in our company accountable, and everyone from the intern to the principal at the top level managing projects, they keep each other accountable, because if you're not doing a good enough job, I'm not going to walk past and say, oh, your problem. It is my problem if I want us to succeed as a company, and we've really truly grasped the employee ownership, accountability, and that kind of all stems just from being that team, and money relates to that.
All right, well, I'm going to be a little bit repetitive too, but for us at Packer, Fastener and Packer Freight, it's definitely culture. So people come to work for us because we're different. We're not corporate America. We don't have a lot of red tape. We don't overthink many things by design. We have a basketball hoop in our operations. We have a punching machine that measures how hard you can punch. There's just all of these little things that are really fun and novel about Packer, and it just allows us to tap those markets of people who a couple others have mentioned are just really tapped out on all the other corporate America things where they just don't feel as valued and they're not having as much fun.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. So Lauren gets this one first. You have your top employee quit today. What are you doing?
So at Excel Engineering, our motto, and it's become almost overused, but I love it, is always a better plan. So when we look at people leaving, and Excel is a very high retention rate, so to think of losing our top employee is really scary. We keep everyone, we have a great culture too, that comes from the employee ownership. We have a fund, we call us the Google of Fond du Lac, a lot of really cool aspects. So there's obviously the why. We want to know why they left, what are the reasons, and if there's something we can do to make our work atmosphere better, our accountability factors, our, just the everyday management talking to the front level workers, what can we do to make sure those people want to stay? And ultimately, what I've really found with some of the people we have lost over the last couple of years, it's kind of out of our control to a degree. It's like a relationship. You know, it might be nothing that you've done wrong, but the other person has factors in their life that it's just not the right fit right now. So, you know, it's not you, it's me kind of mentality, but it is true. There's certain things. The spouse wants the husband to be more accessible in a remote position, you know, living closer to her parents. I mean, we can't really pay that much money to keep someone to stay if that's truly where they want to be. So I think ultimately it's finding why, see how we can help with other employees and make sure it doesn't happen again, but just accepting the fact that they've chosen something or a path that's different from us, and we move on and we come up with a better plan.
Right. I think if someone's going to leave, especially in a top role like that, and you in your heart have known that, you know, we've done what we could, right? We've been doing the pulse interviews, right? We always say, yeah, exit interviews are fine, right? Because you're gathering some good information and maybe things you didn't know before. But trying to have a pulse, being proactive, and finding out what might not be going well in the first place. And if you kind of know that you've done those things, it's much easier to swallow if you're going to lose that top person if it's truly something that you can't control, right? So our biggest thing is proactively, what are the things you're hearing, right? HR, we hear way too much than we should, so we pick and choose, you know, what to act on, right? And what to go through and what we need to keep looking at from the feedback that we get. So it's going to happen, right? And yeah, if there's something that we can do just simply because, they wanted to move 20 minutes away and you wanted to have one day of flexibility, then you flex like that, right? And you see what the role is, and if you can, you know, accommodate whatever they're asking for if it's not something big. But otherwise, my advice is really just to try to be as proactive as possible to try to avoid those.
Really good answers. We also have really high retention at Packer, so we don't have this a lot, but we had one in the last 6 months, and my first response was, shame on us. We didn't know, right? So the first thing that came out of my head was an apology, and talk to that person about what they value and what they're looking for. And ultimately, we had some blind spots, and through working with that individual and that individual's leader, we were able to come up with a really good equation that met this person's needs. We talked about money, we talked about role, we talked about what are the different things that he was looking at this stage in his career, and he ended up staying. Handled it a little bit like I said, I'm a recovering sales trainer. So, you know, you don't talk about features, you talk about benefits, you talk about value, and then, you know, when you get to that point, you just make the ask. Would you be willing to stay? We'd love to have you.
Well, that's great. Yeah. Let's have Amy want to answer this one too. Just what is the biggest thing you guys have been talking a lot of the things that you've been able to keep people and all this. What is your biggest struggle as a business?
I would say our biggest struggle right now is that we are growing so fast. We're out of space. We're growing out of the Northeast Wisconsin region more than ever. We're growing into Illinois and into Minnesota, so we're consistently having to learn new markets. We're having to get more inventive with how we go out and find talent. We're really tapping into the colleges and technical schools out in those areas. We're having to get a lot more proactive, like a year out, and thinking about where we're going to be staffing and how we're going to be doing that. So it definitely keeps us on our toes.
Kind of along those lines, so we've grown pretty substantially in the last few years. Since I've started in 2013, we are about to start our 5th building expansion. We've added 200 employees, 90 just since last May. I have 40 interns coming in this year, and we're running into capacity, you know, so that's one issue, as well as, like I mentioned before, the retention side. So we have really struggled in Fond du Lac trying to make Fond du Lac a community that's a destination for employees of all ages. So we've really taken it upon ourselves to make Excel a destination employer. And by doing that, you know, we have all of the fluff stuff. We have the basketball court, the golf simulator in the basement, the bar, a slide. You know, we've done all of that stuff, but ultimately we want to make the culture and that work hard, play hard mentality an opportunity for people to come in to offset that challenge of keeping employees and having them them leave too soon. And then finally, communication. I mean, that's one that I think is always hard at every company, communication. We're architects and engineers, and let me tell you, the conflict resolution, addressing concerns with your employees, and just that gap between employee supervisor communication. So anything we can do to help our employees communicate better is what we're looking at for, and kind of offsetting that challenge.
Okay. How many small employers have a slide in your office? So Ann will bring it from the small employers aspect for you guys, for any small employers.
Low cost, no cost.
Yep.
So we have a couple different challenges, again, just from a different front of a lot of our clients are anywhere from, 5 employees to maybe 75, 80, right? Where you can get to that point where you have an outsourced HR resource, right? Or maybe a liaison on site for some of those little larger ones. But their struggle, probably in the last 18, 24 months, is that during the pandemic, we had an opportunity to cut some of those C&D players that maybe we knew we were keeping because we had the opportunity that we just had too much business, right? So we got to evaluate this A, B, C, D type players, look at these C&Ds, offer them a severance out or anything like that, and then all of a sudden when everything ramped back up, they're thinking, wow, the C's weren't so bad, right? Because we can't find anybody. So the struggle right now which kind of led into, we have again, a lot of those small employers where you have a lot of on-the-floor type employees who are made into leads, right? They're not technically supervisors, they've never led. You might have your best technician that you think can go and lead a team. So while we struggle with that retention and just getting everybody kind of cross-trained and, you know what I mean, and kind of adapting to not being able to find as many people as we would, we're also really challenged with, we have a lot of training right now, a lot of Supervisor 101, HR 101, what you do and can't do. I love like the interview type questions, and so our challenge now is to really get these frontline supervisors up to speed so that they can lead the people more efficiently, especially if they're not going to get as many, a lot of our employees, they're 20, 30% that they're not full, right, in terms of employees that they could have. So, yeah, challenges of retention flowing into just level of experience.
Yep. Very good, very good stuff. Is this good? Good stuff? Good, because we got another 15, 20 minutes we'll talk through. Why don't we, Emily, do you want to grab a microphone if people have questions? I got a few more questions for them, and then we'll maybe sprinkle in some questions that you guys have. Do you guys have the microphone out there? And there goes the back of it. How do you handle the balancing, let's have Amy answer this one. How do you handle the balancing act of flexibility in the workplace for your employees?
Well, first and foremost, Packer is, for the most part, a work-at-work type of environment. We don't have a strong work-from-home culture, but that's on purpose, right? So we feel for our business to be successful, we need to have most people working in the business. Now, we do try to just understand that life happens, right? How often do we have somebody, who just has a life that works in a perfect vacuum, right? Work happens when you're at home, and home happens when you're at work. So really just try to have an understanding that as long as the work is getting done and we're taking care of our customers and our teammates, that really we're all just trusted until we're given a reason to lose that trust.
So I love that answer because we also do not have a work from home. And that's been instrumental since COVID. We had everyone back in the office when the state opened back up, I think May 28th, 2020. Everyone came back. We obviously made some accommodations for employees who had family members that wanted to stay home or they wanted to stay home. But that employee ownership of being in the office, not being remote. And it is a balancing act because we all have lives where you're getting pulled in 100 different directions, and we know our employees are too. So being understanding and again, accountable and being the accountability factor of it's employee owned. So we're gonna let you do your job. We trust you that you're gonna do your job. If you have to leave a couple hours early for an appointment, you guys wanna get on the road for a family vacation, if we trust that your work is getting done, that's the balancing act. It's that trust between a supervisor and an employee and just saying, hey, we get it. There's something real out there besides work right now, and that's more important. But at the same time, we want you in the office. Owners go to work. Employee owners go to work, and we want our employees at work so that they can build that culture and buy into that culture.
Yeah, along those lines, I think that, one of the biggest thing right now with our small employers, right, our 20, 30, 40 employees, they're looking for that flexibility, right? So these small employers might not be paying the highest dollar, they might have a great culture, right, and great benefits and other things, but we know that employees can go kind of anywhere that they want right now, right? Especially in our skilled trades, our manufacturing, our CDL drivers, no matter what it is. So our employers are struggling to say, well, do we make some sort of hybrid? Do we make some sort of remote policy of 2 days a week? Okay, well now we have, first line supervisors asking to do that in an office environment. Well, you can't have your employees here, right, and your supervisor at home. So they're struggling very much so in terms of, do we do this or not? Because they're afraid that they're gonna lose their people that could go work from home 100% of the time. Personally, as an owner, that's a struggle too. It was one of those things during the pandemic where it's like, okay, we don't have a lot of clients that come to our office since we do so much stuff on site. So, I went to our girls and our staff and said, what do you want to be here? Do you want, to be at home? What works for you? They know that they have flexibility, but it was really nice to hear them all say, no, like we get way more done when we come in. And I was like, phew, like we didn't have to have this conversation of 6 months, like get back here, we need the support in the office, because we do get a lot of calls. And just to be able to brainstorm, I mean, that's really nice to walk down the hall, and have them knock on your door and be able to do that. So I think it's a lot about the culture that you build and the people that want to be there, and be a part of that. So I think that's huge to push if you are struggling with trying to keep people for that.
All right. Do you have any questions from the audience? That one up front, Kyle, you want to bring it up front here?
Thank you. How are you handling wage disparities right now with new employees versus current employees and the morale change that might occur because of that?
That's a great question. We actually have had to look back as we've updated billing rates, our billable rates internally. Some offer letters that would have gone out last summer, now we've adjusted early this year. So what we're trying to do is bring all of those employees up to make it an equal playing field. So our current employees that have been there 2, 3, 4 years now have someone coming in that's getting paid more than they are. And it is a lie. People talk. They're gonna talk. They're gonna talk about what they're getting paid. Don't think they're not. And that's just something we have to be aware of. And you need to pay your employees what they're worth. Again, there's going to be that certain threshold where you can offer them, and we've had this, we've offered so much more than they're currently getting, and they still say they want to leave because there's just external factors that are out of your control. But ultimately, what are you offering besides the pay that you're getting to attract them there? What can you tell them or educate them on right off the bat? That's been a huge thing for us, is just the education component. You're getting paid really well, but you may not be at the same level as this person if they're talking, they're gonna bring it up. You may not be at a certain level yet, but show us what you can do and we'll reward you for it. Make sure that you're giving it back to them. If you can't make an equal pay right off the bat, somehow show them that they're valued and that their work is valued too.
I think we're all kind of dealing with this right now, right? This is a tough one because, as a smaller employer, we just haven't been able to come with huge dollars. And this last year's compensation cycle, we did a really large adjustment and made some corrections and have tried to bring some specific groups back up where we're seeing some of that. But I'm looking over at Shannon, our chief recruiter over there. We get in these conversations because we're no longer able to always say yes to our first choice. And it's just as important to our people that we have on our staff. We have to first and foremost feel really good about what we're paying and how we're paying and whether we're paying appropriately. We have to make sure we're benchmarking, but then at the same time, not going too far, because that's not fair either. And to date, I will say that we've been able to solve all of our problems. Sometimes it takes a little longer and the managers don't like that, but frankly, as an HR leader, I would rather see that than create a cultural issue and have a whole bunch of wage inflation, and then all of a sudden we're not able to pay our broader bills over the longer term. So something that's pretty important to balance.
Yeah, I think a little bit of a piggyback off of that is we've struggled a little where a lot of our smaller companies, these people have been here a lot of tenure, 10, 15, 17 years, and they say, wow, we can't keep paying, this guy to run this machine. He's at $35 an hour, everyone else is at 28 because we just kept giving him increases, right, over and over each year. And now they're way out of whack and probably not going to get anything. So one of the biggest things that we're trying to do is make sure, yes, internally that we're competitive, right? Because if your people are complaining internally and you know that you're not competitive, that's a lot harder conversation to have. than saying, all right, so we did this wage study, you're in the correct tier, however, we're gonna accommodate for some of this inflation or wage, discrepancies that are happening, so we're gonna do this one-time adjustment or something. But one of the most important things too that we're doing with that is that making sure that everybody has these accurate job descriptions, right? So that they can take a look with clarity and say, these are the roles that I'm doing for this wage, right, within this tier, right? And help build out these tiers for these different roles so that they know, like you said, if someone comes in with a little bit more education, we can say, well, look, you have this opportunity to go to this role. If you get your, associate's degree or bachelor's degree or something, here's the tier that you can be in. So I think number one, making sure that you're competitive so you have a much easier conversation and honest conversation with your employees that we feel you're paid, where you're at. Yes, people are coming in a little bit higher, but you can justify why.
Awesome. Any other questions from the audience? Anyone else right now? No? We got one over there. Just I'm going to throw in the question back so the recording here is just how do you handle the bad apples that maybe are tearing down the culture a little bit, whether they're still there or they just left, and damage repair that.
Yeah, they're always there, right? There's always those people that your good employees know who the bad ones are, right? So yeah, we've had everything from horrible videos that were made, people coming back, right, and just yelling and screaming, and you kind of have this push through your culture that can be pretty devastating. But I think just, again, being proactive in terms of, are your employees happy? Are you having open communication with them? How do you think that they feel, right? And getting feedback kind of 360 from these employees and all levels of employees so that you know any of these problems before. And if you know that this person is a problem beforehand, right, it's okay, then coming together and saying, how do we have this conversation and what type of concrete, information do we have that we can go through and do some sort of performance plan, right? But I think most importantly, yes, you want to attack it right away because you don't want your good employees to see that you're doing nothing. That can be the most detrimental and spread the most, right, is if they see the same person doesn't come in, they have a bad attitude, they're, profanity, whatever it is in terms of that culture. I think if you're not addressing that right away, that's how it's going to spread further, and your good employees are going to know what you're not doing about it. So as soon as you can handle, as soon as you can attack it, then good.
I feel like that's a kind of situation where it's a lot like high school drama, and the more you talk about it, the longer it stays relevant. And honestly, sometimes you can stop talking about it, and obviously your employees are going to continue. We just had a situation like that at work where you want them to stop talking about it, but it's news for them, it affects them, they feel like they're in the thick of it. And I think it's kind of a twofold answer. So one, obviously, is to move on and paint that positive light going forward, like this person isn't here anymore, we're going to go forward with what we were doing and we're going to do it well. And addressing it individually, I think, with some of the people that are bringing that negativity down and just saying, hey, we want everyone to feel like they're in an environment where they are thriving and they're not being held back by negativity. 3 of our core values are professionalism, integrity, and now I can't remember the last one. As I'm on the spot. But yeah, but it's one of those things that you got to just remind them, like, if you're an employee here, this is what we believe in. We want to keep that professionalism and integrity moving forward. And at the end of the day, it's also communication. Make sure your leaders and the supervisors are approachable. I mean, they have to be approachable if you want employees to come to you and say, hey, this isn't good. Like, he left this gap. This is wrong. If they feel like you don't have the time, you're too busy, and we are all too busy right now. It's just, we got to keep that approachability factor going and be proactive. Go out and ask, how are things going? Do you like what's happening? What can we do to improve? And I think just another aspect of the communication.
Those were 2 really good answers. So it sounds really repetitive, but values and culture, like, as long as you know what those things are and you stand by them, I've been known to make a lot of analogies, right? So it's like friendships or marriages or things like that. They start out with the best of intentions. Well, employment relationships aren't always forever either, and people change and circumstances change and things change. However, if you're consistent with your values and you're consistent with your culture and you're not willing to sacrifice who and what you are as an organization, and you're not willing to tolerate this bad behavior, I agree wholeheartedly. You move on, you address it head on, and you just
look forward to the future and celebrate the people who are actually doing the good things, right? Have the managers checked in, making sure that the right things are happening, and then giving that positive reinforcement. I think just helps it unravel a lot quicker.
All right. A little bit different subject, but mental health. Are you seeing this as an issue in your company, and what are you doing about it?
As a employer of a lot of young men, we're probably a little more shielded from this because young men are not willing to admit when there's something going on. So I can say at Packer, this isn't something that we struggle with a ton. However, we have had a few instances where we have recommended that people go to EAP. We have allowed some accommodation activity for people to go for some extended counseling, and in general, we handle people with care and compassion and how we would want to be treated. So I can't say it's something that overall we've seen a huge uptick, but the circumstances that we have seen, we've just chosen to handle those with care.
So I feel like there's a couple different things when I think about the mental health portion, and obviously one is the EAP. So we obviously try to direct employees when we feel like there's a need for the employee assistance programs, the resources that we have. And I did really see an uptick probably post-COVID, those first few months. We had several people reaching out, and at that time it was really hard, obviously, because we're in two different places. They're at home, I'm at home or at work, and we couldn't communicate in person, which I really feel like in the role of HR, the empathy component gets lost when you're not face-to-face with someone. So I think once we got back into the office, that was huge for us. I didn't have many people reaching out after that. I've had the occasional one or two, and there's always going to be things in life, divorces, things happening at home, financial, and all of that. And as long as we have that employee assistance program, and my own personal goal is always, how can I be a Christian to this person and help them? And, whether they believe in God or not, I use my faith as, an opportunity to talk to them, because there's a lot of basic elements there that, what do you need? How can I help? And that's just one thing, again, with the leadership component, how approachable are you? Can your employees come to you? If they feel like you can't understand, or you don't want to understand or take the time, they're going to struggle with that. And I think that's what we've really tried to do, is just make sure, hey, our door's always open. Even when it's closed, it's glass, you can still see us, so it's kind of still open. And then on top of that, just a few small things around the office, a little bit of that flexibility, come and go as you need. Like if something happens at home, you can deal with it. We have yoga classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays at noon, it's just for employees to drop in. So some of that stress management as well.
Yeah, so again, a little bit different on our front, that really ingrained with our clients is that we are that HR department, right? We are the kind of the one person that they go to. So COVID-wise, we actually had a lot more grandparent deaths, even parent deaths, things like that were just much earlier that some of these younger employees were dealing with, right? That demographic went through a lot more loss than they probably would have, had we not been in a pandemic. So we've had a lot of that, and a lot of them were away at school, right? So you have moms and dads that are worried about their kids in a different network. Well, if their network isn't, within our carriers, or, what do we do with that? Okay, so then we try to be a little bit proactive, and what a lot of our clients that we're pushing them to do is figuring out the resources. So a lot of times, they know we have an EAP, they know they could use ERC here, right? But it doesn't really click with them all the time, right? So the number of uptick in people that were coming to me, it was an opportunity for us to say, okay, let's partner with an ERC, let's get somebody in here that we can have them come in quarterly or every other month, or every 6 months, whatever it is, just so that the employees understand that there is a resource there, and they're comfortable knowing that this person came in, I know I can talk to this person, and at least they're visible, right? So we know we gave them all the tools and resources that we could, and they at least have the opportunity to do that. Now they have a multiple, places that they could go to. They can go to their supervisor or owner, they can come to, their HR person, or that ERC or EAP directly. So just increasing the amount of tools and resources, but we've just seen a lot more of that with, kids are going through a lot different cycle in, college and everything when they were home, but it's been hopefully getting a little bit better.
Any other questions from the audience? Got a few more minutes. John, I'm sure you got some. Maybe 2 more questions? Questions? I do have one more with budgets. I know we're talking about, you've got people have budgets for health insurance, and I know we might be the best agency in the world, but we still can't predict your health renewal every year. So yes, we cannot. But, when it talk about budgets relating to, and it sounds like a lot of you are doing like how to get your employees engaged, right? The culture. Do you guys have budgets set specifically for that?
For benefits and engagement
Well,
and those
outside
types
of
of
benefits,
things? Okay.
just like non, like just culture stuff.
Yeah, I think, like we said, we talked about the fund committee, we talked about planning, so there was this lull where a lot of our clients weren't doing, because of COVID things, right? They weren't doing the potlucks or the food trucks or, the turkey chase game, like I mentioned, but they just weren't doing that anymore because of, obviously, the caution. So a lot of our clients were really lucky because they did have something set away, right? There was somebody within marketing that was able to plan all these things. So they did have some extra dollars. So some of them had done some actual trips. So some of them went skiing. So a couple of our clients took, whoever wanted to go, right, within their employees, they went skiing. There was another one that went to, it was like this more adult-based, like water park, right? And just kind of fun like that. And then they've also been donating some things in terms of dollars to their families, right? So that their families could go, their employees could go on different trips. So with us, I don't think there's as much of, hey, here's our $10,000 budget just because of the size of our employees, but they just do a lot more, a little bit more frequently, right, in smaller things.
I have to be really careful because our CFO is here. I would say we do not have specified budgets for a lot of the things we do. We believe that our culture is a big motivator for us. So in regards to that, we're quick to spend money on a slide. Ice cream on National Ice Cream Day. We try and do like the inexpensive things. I've really worked with our coworker that sits at the front desk. She's great at, Lauren, what can I do? Can I bring something in? What should we do? And I said, well, how about National Ice Cream Day, National Popcorn Day, some of the more inexpensive things. And they may seem really small and kind of tacky at times, but employees love them. I feel like it's a break from the monotony. It's something different. We do bag toss tournaments. So yes, we spend money on certain things, but we also try and utilize as many, inexpensive resources as well. So when I have new hires come in, number one checklist item for the supervisor is take the department out to lunch. Like, get them out of the office, get them out of their desk space, and buy them lunch. Like, it seems pretty simple, but with, schedules and deadlines, it's a struggle to actually have happen. So ultimately, we're not spending a ton of money on that side of things, but we're willing to, pay for a yoga instructor. We do beer Fridays, so we have half-day Fridays in the summer. That's obviously been a really big hit with our employees. The office closes at noon. Some people stay and work later. It's not uncommon to see the departments out there having a couple beers, playing bag toss. We have pool tournaments throughout the year, ping pong tournaments. So it's trying to get employees involved, especially, again, we're architects and engineers, so naturally you don't see a lot of individuals going out and venturing and finding friends. It's kind of like, okay, here's more people in your group. You guys like playing poker? Great. There's a group that plays at lunch. And kind of helping them, go in that direction. So we try to do a lot with the employees, but more on the inexpensive side, because there's so many different things you can do for not a lot of money or, pretty cheap. A set of bags and boards isn't that expensive, and it goes a long way, especially the competitive side.
Yeah.
All right, again, a tough act to follow, but let's see. Our people like food. Your people like food? Okay. Our people like food. So we buy wings when we hit sales targets on the one side of the business. On the other side, we buy pizza. We try to separate those by a week, and we're always hopeful that we meet our sales goals, but when we do, we're like, oh man, okay, guess I'm eating salad the rest of the week. But our supervisors are really empowered. Sounds really silly, but we still have corporate credit cards, so our managers are really empowered to spend some money, take people out to lunch, take people to a gambler game, a blizzard game, utilize the space that we have at the Resch. We haven't quite graduated to the Packer box yet, but we have one at the Resch. We highly recommend it. We allow people to utilize those tickets that come for sale. We give them to people from time to time. We've brought back the Christmas parties. This summer we're doing a family event at Bay Beach. So just trying to get back into all that. We do a lot of the things
similar things that you all have mentioned as well. But really just try to keep things light. I like the inexpensive. It's good. You don't have to be too fancy, really. You just have to give people some kind of fun experience and feed them.
All right, great. Any last thoughts? Final thoughts for the group? No? That was pretty good, huh? That was very good. Thank you so much for our panelists. Thank you so much for our panelists, and we're gonna wrap it up, and we got AJ Dillon come up here second. So thanks for being up here. And then I am going to introduce our keynote. Kyle, do you want to just come take these chairs down real quick? Yeah. We'll maybe give that to AJ. All right, before he comes in, he's going to be here in 2 minutes? Okay. All right, we do have, this is SHRM accredited, so anyone that's on the live stream, that is your code to get your SHRM credits. We have 3 SHRM professional development credits for today. Just a picture of our family, I would say it is our family, our 5G family, with all of our staff. I mean, we've grown to about 22 employees. You maybe have seen Cable Insurance. I finally, after like 10 years, bought my dad's agency, so that's finally done May 1st. And those team members have been part of us, including Bree, from the beginning, but we're kind of, everything's kind of together there. But, we're very big on the family, on the culture as well. We have, like I said before, we have the same struggles that every one of you have in this room for attracting and keeping people. It's just, you got to keep doing your best, and it's not always the biggest things. It could be coming down to the little things as well that keep people here and keep people with you. So I'm going to introduce AJ. 1 minute. All right. If I knew jokes, I would tell a joke, but I don't. So I guess that's my joke. But I do want to say just thank you very much, everyone, for being here as he's just coming in the door here for a second. Thank you so much for being here. Whenever I do these things, I've always said, walk away with 3 things that you want to actually implement, because there's a lot of content we went over today, right? We went a lot of stuff that maybe you need to do on the compliance side or an HR side. But at the end of the day, for employees, it's maybe like Lisa was saying, just a deep dive into just talking to employees. Even when we first started growing as an agency big, all the carriers reps kept saying, how are you guys growing so fast? How are you guys doing it? And Rick and I remember we were in a meeting and we just said, I don't know, we work really hard and we just go and meet with people and they just jump down, work hard. Like they wrote down, like seriously, work hard. Like it's just like, that doesn't come down. It's not that, it's not that hard. Just get out there and have a positive attitude and keep working. So I want to thank everyone for being here. I do want to thanks to Lauren Struck. Lauren, why don't you wave your hand back there? Lauren was the main coordinator of this entire thing, along with Emily Trusk and Bernie Carbajal. All 3 of them are just did a fantastic job on putting this thing together. After AJ talks, we do have an open bar. We have appetizers. My brother has himself and a band member. I don't know. It's a pretty big band down in Fond du Lac. They're going to be doing some live music. Then also you're going to be able to take a photo with AJ Dillon. So, do we have Packers music? I thought I just heard something. Maybe not. All right. Yeah, we should do it. Go Pack, go! Go Pack, go! Go Pack, go! There he is, there's the man. AJ Dillon is a star running back for the Green Bay Packers. Selected by the Packers in the 2nd round with the 62nd pick of the 2020 NFL Draft. Dillon became the 16th Boston College player drafted by the Packers and the first since nose tackle B.J. Raji. In his rookie season, Dillon appeared in 11 games and had 242 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns on 46 carries, and had 2 receptions for 21 yards. Dillon became the youngest player in franchise history to rush for 100-plus yards and 2 touchdowns in a game. Dillon followed up with his successful rookie campaign as the Packers' number 2 running back next to Aaron Jones. In Dillon's 2nd season, he logged 187 carries for 803 yards, 5 rushing touchdowns, and 2 receiving touchdowns. Please help me welcome AJ Dillon. Thanks, man.
Well, thank you very much for that very warm welcome. I love a good pat on the back before I get up here. First of all, I just want to say thank you to everybody who came out today. I appreciate it and I'm honored to be able to talk to you guys. I really just want to say, thank you just to all the Green Bay Packers fans and just kind of my journey since I've joined the Packers. Obviously we all know we had the whole deal with COVID, and so when I got drafted, we didn't have OTAs, which we're doing right now, and everybody looks good and healthy, and it's going to be a great year, and camp and all that, so it was a weird kind of year. We had no fans my rookie year, and so I just really wanted to say, when I first got out here, I got drafted, moved out, apartment, had nothing in it, but the Green Bay fans, I'm on social media the second I get out here, and people are like, hey, do you want some food? I know your family's not out here. I'll make you a chicken pot pie. I'll do this. I'll be your ride. If you don't have anywhere to work out, my kids got a sled in the backyard. And so it's just those kind of really personable connections that is why we have the best fan base in all of football, and why I'm so grateful to be a Packer. Going forward, obviously I have the key to Door County, and I heard there's a little raffle going on a little later, and so a couple of people are going to win some trips, which will be really cool. I'll be out there. You just let me know. And definitely be out there this weekend if anybody has any Memorial Day plans. But so I go up there, and once again, when I got to Green Bay, I was never expecting there to be this place that's a vacation. You go out, you get on the water. I'm thinking it's only flat. You only got Lambeau. That's the only thing to do. And it's just so much fun. The people up there have embraced me. I've embraced it. And, it's just been an unbelievable experience, and it's never what I thought I was getting into. When I got called, I had no idea what Green Bay was going to be like, but I call this place home now. I'm going to call this place forever. My fiance and I got a house, and she's from here. She's an Asquabaning grad. If there's any Jaguars in the building, I don't know. And I just wanted to say thank you, and I'm really honored to be here in front of you guys, and also to be a Green Bay Packer. And I think we got some Q&A. If anybody has questions, grill me.
So it's been a lot of fun watching you as the mayor of Door County. So I think a lot of people in this room have also probably gone up there, but what's been your favorite, your favorite day? Describe your perfect day in Door County, starting in the morning till night.
All right. So, perfect day. I wake up, brush my teeth. But definitely, from doing perfect day, the goats are on the roof over at Al Johnson's. I'm gonna go to Sister Bay, maybe get some pre-breakfast drinks at Stabor, which is that little outdoor drinking area. Get a table at Al Johnson's, maybe walk around Sister Bay for a little bit, and then try to get on somebody's boat, cruise around for a little bit, and then it's perfect day, so it's really nice, but not too nice. I like 70s. I'm a fan of the cold. And we're going to go to Husby's. Unity, the band, is going to be playing up there, since we're already in Sister Bay. And then we'll be there for a while, have a few drinks. Maybe go to dinner over at Wickman House, which is in Ellison Bay. And then we'll wrap it up. We're going to send Bayside until we burn it down, which is in Frisk Creek. If you're ever there with me, it's unlimited tequila shots, so hopefully you like them. They're all first. So the first time I ever ran out there's no fans. So it was cool. Don't get me wrong, it was still really cool, but it was really quiet. It was only us yelling, and I don't know if you've ever heard a bunch of 21 to 30, how old is Aaron? 30. Running out of the tunnel where it's just and there's nothing else. But we had the fireworks, so it was really cool. First time ever running out of there. The second is last year when we had the fans back, and I ran out, and that was obviously unbelievable. One of the coolest experience of my life, playing football. And then the last, I started to do a little bit better as the season went on. Got some playing time, and I finally, when they announced the offense out there, they said my name. And so this I'm still working on. I'm never the showboating type. I'll never do crazy celebration in the end zone. But I ran out there, I called my name, I'm under the thing. They're like, all right, you go. Smoke's going out here. Hey, Jay, Dylan. I had no idea what to do, so I'm just got the little job, gave a little wave, and it was funny. I came off to the sideline, and Mason Crosby was like, have a little fun with it, man, loosen up. But once again, awesome experience, and to hear my name and the crowd roar up there and get fired up for me is kind of breathtaking. So it's been a really fun experience.
And in school and just in life, who has been your biggest motivation or continues to be your biggest motivation?
Definitely my mom, just growing up. I'd say now my fiance is fighting her for that title, but definitely my mom. My mom, growing up, she was a single parent. She had me at 20 and was still in college. And so I saw her work 2 or 3 jobs growing up. She was a teacher, full-time teacher, a waitress, and sometimes she'd pick up a 3rd shift. I'd stay with my grandma. And but she'd always still figure out a way to get me to practice during Pop Warner. Always figure out a way to, when she was home during that little break time, to help me with my work if I needed it. And just, I'd say, that sacrifice and that persistence and that commitment and her priorities are things that just kind of shifted, and things like she didn't even need to talk about or say, but things that I just kind of embodied from watching her. And, you know, not to talk bad about anybody else, but going through and growing up and maturing a little bit more, not everybody has those qualities. And I think she did such a great job instilling that in me. It just kind of made certain situations or certain decisions where some might, you know, tip the scale just a little bit easier and clearer, because that's just what I've seen. That's a commitment I've seen put forth. So my mom, and then, you know, she never missed, she missed 2 of my college games. One was because there was a hurricane, the other was she was really sick. So every away game, every home game, she was there. Obviously NFL, we're playing all over the place, so it's a little harder, but, you know, just that love, that commitment, her sacrifice, definitely my mom. Great question. Now that I am 24, mature, I had, you know, I had my birthday my birthday was May 2nd, and my brother-in-law, actually, he is 2 months older than me, and so he just kept saying, he's my older brother, and he's like, this is 24. And it might not be true, it might just be the placebo effect, but the day it was my birthday, and we finished OT, I think we had practice, and I'm coming back from practice, I'm like, man, maybe I gotta start doing a little bit more recovery. My body's just not bouncing back as fast as it used to. So, yeah, no, but I definitely feel a little older and wiser. In all honesty, I think, like personally, outside of football, some of the biggest goals of mine, I'm getting married in a month. I just really want to be the best husband. We're, you know, gonna start trying for kids and be the best father. Those are 2 of the things that just mean the world to me. And so with that, I just also want to put myself in a position to be able to provide, and I'm always trying to do that without football, because you never know. I could go out there first game, God forbid, knock on some wood, never be able to play again. So just putting myself, whether it's, you know, getting up here, talking to you guys, making connections, just trying to set up things for the future and to make sure I'm able to provide comfortable lifestyle for, you know, my future wife and my kids going forward. My biggest motivator is family. It's always going to be, and so family first. And so that's kind of how I, you know, make all my decisions and kind of what drives me long term. Yeah, I mean, I think it's there's 2 parts to it. I think it's really, really good that the players are getting paid. I do think, well, I'll just continue with that one. I think my thing was, when I was always in college, if somebody was on the band, if somebody was in the team band, and then they go and they get hired to do a gig at the pub or whatever, I'm saying pub, I went to Boston College, so we got a lot of those. So if somebody's out there and they're performing, they can get paid, but they're playing on the college band. You know, so I do think name, image, likeness, it's something that you're entitled to, and I do think that, you know, it's great that players are getting paid. On the other hand, I think there should probably be some type of restriction limit. I don't know what that is. I'm not the person to be able to figure all that stuff out. It's way above my pay grade. But just so that, you know, the smaller schools or people with smaller alumni bases aren't completely washed out. Because if you have a alumni base or a program or somebody who's willing to pay you tens of millions of dollars and somebody else can only get you 10,000, where are you going to go? You know, so it's just one of those things, and I just hope that players are still making a decision best for their future, because you know, you're not there yet, you're not in the league yet, so you got to put yourself in the best position to do that and get your education. But I'm happy that players are getting paid. I think a misconception sometimes people have is that, you know, we're professional athletes, it's so much like you're just still playing the same game. I'd say each level you go up, it starts to become a little less fun. Not that you don't love it anymore, but it is your job. I mean, there's guys in the building that are here now that we won't see in 2 months, that you'll never hear of, that work and, you know, putting their all into it, and they'll be somewhere else. And then there's the guys that'll be somewhere else and be here. So that part of it, you know, doing your job, making sure you're doing what you need to do to stay, not be fired, you know, traded. There's that aspect. And it's also just, you know, when you're doing something repeatedly, when you have your boss, our coaches, you know, telling us this is the way to do it, this is what we want, you know, you're like, I gotta do this today. It's just the same as somebody being like, hey, I need this report by so-and-so. When you get out there and they're like, hey, I want you to run this duo play this way, read this, and, you know, do it the right way, and you go the wrong way, they're gonna be all on you. So I just think, you know, for us, it is a job. That's how I make my livelihood. But just that, you know, pleasing the boss, I guess.
Now, we've all seen you run people over. Now, who's given you the biggest hit?
I'm gonna mess up his name, I know it. So, is it Akeem Hicks or Nix with the Bears? Nix. Hicks, okay. My rookie year, we ran like a 38, or we're in the gun, we're running the outside zone. And I mean, we're up, we're gonna win this game, and that was to give us the #1 seed at the time. And we're playing there at Soldier Field. And I remember, I'm just running, I'm like, okay, I see my hole, I got the guys in front of me, and all of a sudden, I've never felt this one man bring me down, and this guy, his arm went right around my helmet, he threw me down to the ground. And I felt so defenseless, I'm like, anybody see that? And he gets up, and I mean, you know, I'm a rookie, I haven't really played much, that's like my 30th carry, and he gets up and beating on his chest, and he goes, I'm the king. I was like, yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. I jogged back to the huddle. So definitely that one. I've never been stopped by a grown man like that and just thrown to the ground. As big as I am, some of the D linemen are even bigger. Okay, perfect. All right, well, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.